Do you have anything specific you don't want to talk about or you do want to talk about? Like, what's up?
No, not very specifically. Like NanoGPT would be fun to talk about, of course. I feel
Absolutely.
I feel like you might bring up Mira.
Hey everybody, this is Michael, bringing back keyword crypto from the dead because we have a special guest, Mira Hurley, who's going to sound, interestingly, not like a woman. Mira, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, yes, I will sound more masculine, hopefully, than most people expect me to sound, I think. But yeah, so my name is Milan de Rede. I'll pronounce it the Dutch way. But I think most people still know me as Mira Hurley. So also on Twitter, I think I've called myself like Milan, formerly Mira Hurley. But
That's
yeah,
smart.
yeah, I figured that would be the best way to do it to get people slowly used to it.
I almost wanted you to start up a second account from Milan and then have the Mira, the Mira just as kind of like a historical account, but
Yeah, that
that might get too difficult.
right. Yeah, that would have been possible, I think. But then I would have had to sort of start all over in terms of followers.
That's true. Yeah.
So what I've done is I quickly claimed the Mira Hurley name or username on Twitter on X, and I just put like in the bio that like Mira Hurley is now known as Milan with a link
Oh,
to my profile. So in
yeah, that's
case
smart.
anyone got confused.
So you mentioned this on, did you mention it on Twitter or did you mention it in DMs about why?
Oh no, I mentioned it on Twitter, I think. I did this big sort of reveal post
Okay,
where
that's right.
where I talked about the reasons for sort of doxing myself now.
Do
So
you
no,
want to
no.
explain it again here?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, when I started posting on Twitter, I still worked at the Dutch central bank, and I really wanted to keep the two separate because there's very little to gain on either side from like linking the two identities, right? Like
Yeah.
central bank people would not be very fond of me being on Twitter criticizing the central bank or explaining to everyone like how central banks are corrupt and crypto is the future. So there was very little to gain from that side. And at the same time, you know, if you post on Twitter with people knowing that you work in a central bank, anytime I would like criticize Bitcoin, it would be like, yeah, but you're like a central bank shill. Anytime I would talk positively about another crypto, it would be like, yes, but you're a central bank shill. So I figured there was very little to gain. Also, like if I talked badly about central banks, they could always sort of use that against me later, people on Twitter, so that if I ever did say something about Bitcoin or whatever, they would contact the central bank. So I decided to just keep the two separate for a very long time. Nowadays, I don't work at the Dutch central bank anymore. I am fully in crypto nowadays, and so it seemed like time to do it. And then the other part is because we started a company for NanoGPT, I'm actually just fully publicly doxed now. Like people can look
Yeah.
up who the owners of NanoGPT are, which one person at least had already done. Like they contacted me, like I finally know. So I figured, okay, you know, secrets out there. I might as well just do the full reveal. And yeah, it comes with a lot of advantages. So it felt like the benefits finally outweighed the disadvantages. Like I finally get to be on this podcast, for example, which I really wanted to do for a long time. So yeah,
We talked
I
about it
thought
a long time ago.
I know. Yeah, yeah. Sadly, like despite how great AI is nowadays, it's really hard to do the live voice transcription,
Yeah.
uh, and also that sort of felt like taking it too far. Like I would get into this whole gender identity crisis, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, look, I completely understood. I never, and to anybody listening, I never pressured. I think,
no,
I
no, you
think
never did.
Mira
No.
had a great persona, and that persona was somebody who doesn't do podcasts.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I thought that not, I thought doing my podcast after you had explained it, I was like, you know what, it'd probably be better just to like keep the character alive and consistent by not doing random podcasts.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
no, I
crazy.
think I think for the longest time that kind of made sense. Like I had to, but I was kind of sad about it every time because I do like talking about crypto, and I got quite some invites to podcasts, and it always sounded fun. Like I listened to a lot of podcasts. I like obviously listened to yours, and then I always kind of wanted to be on there. I feel like it's a great way to help sort of spread Nano more. Now that we have NanoGPT, it's a great way to talk about it and explain it more. So I always wanted to. So yeah, I'm kind of happy that I can finally do that now.
I am too. I mean, I feel like it's definitely a next evolution of Nano GPT is being able to like actually know who the people behind it are
Yeah,
and have you
yeah,
talk about it publicly. I'm sure it. I don't think it could possibly hurt. I think it can only be better for the app and Nano in general. Since you're one of the most vocal, competent people around, it was kind of difficult to constantly just having to tag you on Twitter about something because it's not only that
yeah,
you're competent, but you're also technically savvy in communicating.
yeah.
You were the one who we could always count on not to demean the not to demean the person you're talking to.
Yeah, I feel
And
like a
like,
lot of that comes from Patrick, though, to be fair. Like, I would still, if people would ask for nano people on podcasts, I would probably still recommend Patrick and Colin because, I don't know, they are far more technically competent than I am. They're good at it as well. But yeah, happy that I can contribute nowadays.
yeah, but I feel like I mean, maybe it's just my feed, but I just feel like I don't see Patrick as often on Twitter, and I
Yeah,
wasn't
what you're
sure if that
saying is
was
I'm spamming your feed, right? Like there's a lot of Mira and now no, no, I get what you're saying. They're both very busy, Patrick and Colin. So yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, there's probably more output from me than from either of them.
yeah, and I mean, and that's all I meant. It's just in terms of output, and then you have I mean, I had to actually pull back because I started catching myself being like ghost banned and just being like, I am way too vitriolic. I'm way too aggressive. I'm way too much of an asshole. So I need to like tone it down and let Mira, just keep tagging Mira on these
Yeah,
posts.
yeah.
Because I don't want to get into this. I don't want to be that guy anymore.
Yeah. It's funny
So
because
do you want to give a little bit of a backstory of like how you got into crypto or what you did or how you got into the central bank or any of that kind of stuff? Because I
yeah,
mean,
sure.
I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's really because now that you're like, are you coding? Are you actually coding for
Yeah,
Nano GPT?
yeah, I am. I wouldn't
Okay.
say I'm the most competent, but I am trying.
Okay.
The way I usually describe it to people is I probably spend as much time as Huggy on like programming our website. It's just he's like 10 times as efficient.
Okay. Okay. That
He's a
makes
very
sense.
competent developer, and I'm just
Okay.
trying to use LLMs, like literally using NanoGPT to develop NanoGPT further. So that's pretty funny. It's like a service building itself. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no. So my background is I'll start with my crypto background. So I've been in Bitcoin since 2012, 13 ish, which I wasn't like super into it. It's just that's when I found out about it and tried it out a bit. And I played online games at the time, where sometimes I would get paid to play this game, and I would sometimes also want to transfer to friends who help me or something. And we found out about this Bitcoin thing, which was just a funny way to transfer money, right? Like it was cheaper than PayPal. It was pretty quick compared to PayPal, and it's just this fun, geeky thing. So yeah, that's when I kind of got started in crypto, and then got a bit disillusioned with it in 16, 17, like around the block size wars, just because I thought both sides had like good points, but rather than like picking one side, I was like, yeah, I mostly think the against arguments are very good for both sides. So it kind of like made me less optimistic on Bitcoin as a whole, rather than being like very fond of Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin. So got a bit less active for a while, or well, I was never actively posting, just like playing around with it, reading stuff, and then kind of got back into crypto with Ray blocks and with IOTA. IOTA. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce it because I never
I just
pronounced
say
this stuff in real
iota,
life.
but
Iota.
Europeans
Okay.
tend to say words different than the Americans, so
Yeah, it's also I've only ever really written and read about crypto for a long time. So many
okay,
of these
yeah.
words are like I don't pronounce them very often, so no one can tell me I'm pronouncing them wrong. Uh,
Well,
but yeah,
you guys say Nissan over there, and we say Nissan, so it's like there is. I mean, I feel like there's really no correct way.
no.
I mean, I'll be in Europe, and they're like, "Hey, do you want a pair of Nikes?" And I'm like, "What the hell are Nikes?" I'm like, "Oh, Nike. Yeah, sure, okay."
So
So
in
I
your
mean, just like,
defense, I think Nike is the correct pronunciation, right? It's like
yeah.
The Greek god or something, Nike,
Well, I
god of
mean,
victory.
the guy who created the shoe calls it Nike, so so even if it's pronounced incorrectly,
Yeah,
the name of it is Nike because that's how he says it. So I'm assuming
yeah,
like
fair enough.
but I don't know if he's saying it correctly. He could be completely saying it wrong. So,
Could be,
we
could
live
be.
in
No, I
Europe,
think it
needs to be
actually is
right.
Nike. I could ask my grandma. She's an expert on all this Greek historical stuff. But anyway, so what was I saying? Like, oh yeah, found out about Nano and IOTA. IOTA was a bad call in hindsight. Like, I was convinced, like, it sounded very good, right? And I was convinced they could
Yeah.
solve core to site. I was convinced they would decentralize over time. Never happened so far, so I'm kind of not even keeping up with it anymore. But I thought Nano solved a lot of the issues that I saw with both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Like I wanted something that would be a store of value. Like I saw the arguments for the store of value side, but also something that could be actually used as money. And Nano seemed like the only thing I could find that was sort of convincing enough that it could remain usable as money and also remain decentralized in the long run. So yeah, got pretty excited about Nano. Started reaching out like on the Reddit forums and in Discord, trying to learn more. Spamming Colin with questions and asking Patrick like 1,000 questions probably. Like I would say 90% of my Nano knowledge is Patrick and Colin. They were super kind in answering every single small question I had. So yeah, learned a lot about Nano, and then decided like, okay, I can actually contribute something here because by now I've learned so much, yet I still feel a bit like a noob. So I can
Yeah.
understand what people might not understand and try and write articles to explain Nano in a very basic way and to explain why like I think it might be a good store value, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's how I started contributing in Nano. And then yeah, nowadays obviously moved on from writing articles and moved into teaching myself how to develop, how to program, and sort of marketing NanoGPT. I kind of want to call it like Huggy focuses more on the tech side, on like how to actually improve the service, and then my role is more talking to people about it, seeing what they want to have improved, and sort of spreading the word that this thing exists and might be useful for them. So we have a sort of good division of labor. And then in the
Nice.
times where like I feel like I cannot do any more spreading of NanoGPT, I try to contribute some coding as well. Like this morning I added the stable diffusion 3.5 models and updated the
Well, hold on,
Claude.
hold on. Before you get too deep into it, why don't you explain what it is first? Because I feel like you and I both know we're starting talking about it, but people listening might not even know what it is.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
why don't you give a quick primer on that before we get into like the nuts and bolts of it?
Yeah, very good point. Right, so NanoGPT, the simplest explanation is that we offer all the text and image models that you can think of. So ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, also the open source models like Llama and stuff. And then for image generation, we have a ton as well, like Flux, Dolly, Stable Diffusion. We offer all of those models without ever anyone requiring a subscription. So like for me, it was very annoying that to access top models, I would have to pay like $20 a month. And I kind of wanted to solve that. So we set up this service so you can pay just a few cents every single time you want to use a model. So you pay like 1 cent and then you get one answer from ChatGPT. You pay 2 cents and you get like an image generated by Stable Diffusion. We try to collect all the models in one place so that sort of everyone can have access to all the top models without needing to get a subscription and without needing to give up your personal information. So we're quite big on privacy. None of the prompts are ever stored on our servers. None of your sort of conversation history is stored on our servers. We have no clue who is talking to what model about what. We don't want to know because we value privacy. Like, given my history, you
Yeah.
might sort of understand why I value privacy. So yeah, we're trying to decentralize access to all of these AI models. And then one of the ways we started that is by having Nano as a payment mechanism, of course, because that way people can add literally like 10 cents. We've had people who added 10 cents, which to them was like a sizable sum, right? Like, some people don't have that much money and they wanted
Yeah.
to use like the models for the most pressing issues in their life at that moment. And then I don't know, it's just really great to hear from people like, I spent literally 10 cents on your service and it helped me so much. So yeah, we are trying to make it so that everyone can have access to these top models. And yeah, that's NanoGPT in a nutshell.
And are you so you said obviously photo and you said regular written prompts. Are you like with like Llama, for instance, are you able to generate code?
Yeah, yeah, you can do anything. Like, code is one of the things I use it for most myself, just because that way I can help improve the website. I think it's one of the bigger use cases of people using these models is for code. So yeah, code definitely works. People use it for like medical stuff, which I'm not sure I would recommend. But as some people have told us, he's like, there was this one guy who reached out. He's like, yeah, I just got some medical advice from, I think he used ChatGPT on our service, and he's like,
Yikes.
yeah, it sounded great. I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know, like, maybe get it checked as well. And he's like, yes, but like my village only has this shaman I can go to.
Oh
So he was
shit.
accessing
Okay.
it from, I think it was Nigeria or Kenya. And he's like, yeah, so like it actually is better than my sort of local options. So people
Yeah.
also use it for that. Others use it for like storytelling, role play, writing resumes, writing thesis, all kinds of stuff, really. It's just a sort of personal assistant that's really good at a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, because I told you a while back we were talking about the subscription model, and I was testing out a writing something similar to um, NanoGPT, but strictly for writing. And I came against the roadblock today where I clicked over to Llama and I asked to have some code created, and it was like, I don't do that, sorry. I was
Oh,
like,
really?
ugh, yeah. So that's why yours is so exciting because to be able to do photos, eventually probably videos as well, code. It's just like are you already doing videos or is that in the pipeline?
It's in the pipeline. I've been playing around with it myself, trying to get it added. And it actually already works like on our local version. The issue is it takes quite a while to generate video, and it's hard to get that to work right, like UX wise. So we have like video working in the backend, but it needs some improvements before we can actually release it to people. But yeah, it's
Gotcha.
definitely something we want to add.
And I mean, we're going to shield Nano in this podcast. So just so everyone's aware, it's going to come up. It's, I mean, Milan's obviously creating an app for Nano to be used, but I want it brings it back to the point that to me, Nano was always the great equalizer because rich people in the West were like, oh, I had to spend $14 on transaction fees today. That sucked. Whereas somebody like you said in Kenya or Nigeria, who lives in a small little village with a shaman instead of a doctor, is like, oh, $14, I'd make that in 4 months or something
Yeah,
like that. And so somebody can literally use 10 cents and get a bunch of prompts, get a bunch of questions answered using NanoGPT and Nano, and you cannot do that with any other cryptocurrency. I mean,
yeah,
like Solana is coming close with low fees, but at the same time, you're still spending money. Like it
yeah,
still slowly chips away every single time you use it. Whereas Nano, nothing ever gets chipped away. If you have start with 10 cents, you do one transaction for a penny. Now you have 9 cents. Like it doesn't. So, like this is what people who are big fans of Nano really appreciate and kind of dreamt of the possibilities of happening. So, I mean, do you want to talk more about that and like
yeah,
at
yeah.
all?
So I mean, this is obviously I've been enthusiastic about Nano for quite a while. But this is honestly the reason we integrated it. Is it's not because we have some sort of vested interest in Nano. Like I would gladly have sold my Nano if something better had come along, but just it works so well for payments. Like it's ridiculous. Also, just as a developer, sort of to be able to test and never have to take into account fees or like waiting or any complication is so
Yeah.
nice. It's just you send one nano, okay, didn't work, like it didn't trigger what I wanted it to trigger. Send one nano back, do it again. It's so clean in every way. It's just really nice to use. And then, of course, as a merchant, it's perfect to be able to accept payments and not have to worry about any fees. Like we cannot accept a 10-cent payment with Stripe. Like they charge us more in fees than we would get like in payment. So for that kind of stuff, it's really just hard to beat Nano. And yeah, we also added a few ways like that people can earn Nano on our website, mostly for those people that like have very little to spend, so they can have at least a bit more to spend. And even there, like people earn, I don't know, like 10 cents. Like what sort of traditional service is going to pay out when you have 10 cents in your balance? Like
Yeah.
that never works, right? The transaction fees are always higher than that. So yeah, for those purposes, Nano is just honestly fantastic. And yeah, that's why we originally implemented it. We obviously also keep our treasury in Nano, which is something maybe many people don't know. We only kind of revealed it recently. But yeah, it's just a really strong combination of being fantastic for payments and being scalable at the same time and being a really great store of value fundamentally. So yeah, I get excited every time I talk about Nano. I get excited every time I show it off to people, and they're like, "Wait, did it already come into my wallet?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really fun to play around with.
I mean, it's still to this day like the most basic of cryptocurrencies in terms of I'm just sending you value back and forth. That's it. And they're like, okay, what's the big? Oh
Yeah,
wow, that was fast.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, and it just stops. And still, I mean, Bitcoin's been around for what 14 years now,
Yeah.
13 years, and it's still, still like this is the thing that they could never do,
No,
and somebody
no.
finally figured it out. And I was just like, wow, okay,
Yeah, and it's also just that's one of the things I also like about our website. See and know people using our website to demonstrate Nano, and it honestly just makes me really proud to see because you can see someone like opening up the website and going like, "Yeah, click add Nano," and then they see a QR code, and then they scan the QR code, send the Nano, and boom, it's there. So I'm at the network school right now, which is this Balaji initiative, which is a whole other story. But I keep showing off Nano and NanoGPT to people, and the reaction is the same every time. It's like, did this actually confirm? Like, is this actually happening? So it's such a fun thing to demonstrate. And there's honestly nothing in crypto, to me anyway, that I've tried that comes close to that experience.
yeah, it's definitely a wonderful experience to be able to send something back and forth over and over and over and over and over, and
Yeah,
infinitum, and never lose any value. And it's like I feel like I'm playing a game of pong with people or something like that, back old school.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and like I kind of want to figure out a way to play a game of pong or something like that. And then when you lose, you get to keep the nano or something like that,
That's
like
really
whoever you're
funny. Yeah.
playing against. But why don't you? Do you want to talk about kind of? Are you? I mean, can you talk about where you are right now and what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. I also just wanted to add, like, about the ping pong nano back and forth thing. I think that was one of the issues with nano, and maybe with crypto in general. Like, you would get sent a little bit of nano. We did these giveaways on Reddit, right? You would get a little bit of nano, and it would be like, cool, it transferred, and then it's like, now what do I do with it? Like,
Yeah.
what do I do with 10 cents of nano? Like, it's very nice of you to give it to me, but yeah, what's the use?
And now
So
so how many prompts can you do on like basic chat GPT for with 10
for
cents?
for 10 cents you can do like 7 prompts, like
Oh
seven
my god.
average prompts. So it very much depends. That's kind of annoying. Like it depends on how much input and output. So we show a sort of median prompt cost when you hover over like the models, but there's a very wide range of how high or low these costs can go. Like you have people that use one of the top models, and then they throw in like literally a book, and then it will cost you like, I don't know, like 1 nano for that single prompt or something.
Okay.
And then we have other people who can do like 10 prompts for 1 cent because they're doing like smaller prompts, just asking basic stuff, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really depends. But the general estimate is like, I think $1 gives around 60 ChatGPT prompts is the
That's
like the estimate.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think many people realize just how almost everyone who tries our service, I think, unless you're like a big power user of these models, like you're doing, I don't know, hundreds of prompts every day. For most people, it just works out cheaper to use our service once they've tried it. And even more so when you consider you can use multiple models and image generators. Whereas, like, if you want to use ChatGPT and Claude, you would have two subscriptions. So it's already like £40, or sorry, $40. So yeah, it. I think many people don't really understand yet just that this is possible, sort of.
Yeah, I was doing the math with you when I was deciding whether to sign up for that. So for everybody listening, it's called Lex, and it's a writing app, and the AI is tied into it, and so you don't have to leave the app. But I caught myself jumping back and forth to NanoGPT, and then so we sat down and we did the work and did the math, and you were like, well, if you do like X amount, you're going to save money using them, and if you do less than that, you're saving money using me. And so I just kind of wanted to support because like they're a cool team, so I got it anyway. But I realized ton of limitations in terms of like can't do code, can't do photos, can't do this. From a purely writing standpoint, it's great, and I
Yeah, yeah,
love where they're going to go eventually, and like and the ideas they have. But if you're looking for an all-purpose, just amazing experience, and like you said, you can jump between all the different LLMs, and that's also amazing. And
yeah,
to have all that for a penny, essentially, you know, per prompt is absolutely incredible. I mean, like you said, it's the great equalizer. Anybody in the world can use this. All you have to
yeah,
do is say, "Hey, can somebody loan me a penny?"
yeah, yeah,
I ran out, and who in the West is gonna say, "No, beggar, I'm not gonna give you a penny." It's like, of course they're gonna send you a penny. And,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you can help people all over the world with a quick prompt. I mean, it's just versus having to spend $20 per LLM. And so that's the other thing is, like, somebody could save up money for 5 months and finally get to sign up for the LLM for a month and then realize, "Oh, shoot, I need another one too for what I'm doing." It's just like,
yeah.
this is absolutely incredible. So if you haven't used it yet, just really fast, why don't you tell them the website?
Yeah. So the website is nano-gpt.com. It should be very simple to top up your balance. Like, we have Nano, we have a few other crypto that you can top up with. Very low minimums. We've added credit cards as well, like very recently. I think like 5 days ago, maybe, where we
Yeah.
have like a $1 minimum for people to add. And then we also have on the website a usage tab, which people can go into and they can see exactly how much they've spent. So, like, worst case, like, you try out the service with a few dollars or something. And then if you notice you're actually spending more than you would if you got a subscription, like, no hard feelings. We're happy we could sort of help you figure that out and help you figure out maybe which model you like best, because you can also just try them all for a bit and see which works best. But yeah,
Yeah.
nano-gpt.com. Go to it and
Well,
check
and
it
like,
out for
it's like,
yourself.
say somebody wants Llama because they're a coder, so they spend the money on a subscription. But then they're like, "Oh shoot, I kind of need ChatGPT for this. Oh, I can just put $3 in, and that'll last me for 2 months for how little I use it. But I always have access to it." Or if somebody throws a curveball at me and says, "Oh, I need something from Claude," you're like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah, I got some money in Chat in Nano GPT. I can just use that really fast without having to like sign up for a subscription or an account." Or it's just like it's
Yeah,
also the fact that you don't have to create an account, but you can if you want to. It's just like it literally is the best of every world, and kind
yeah,
of like a fail safe for people
yeah.
who
Exactly.
need
We feel that way
LLMs.
too. Also because it's like many of these providers store your prompts and your conversation history if you have like an account with them, and then they're like, yeah, we won't sell it, like we're not going to do anything with it. Like we prefer it just to not to even be able to do that. Like we
Yeah.
prefer like we don't have the prompt, we don't have the conversation, so there's nothing to sell for us. That just feels safer. We don't want your personal information, like stay anonymous if you want to, because that way we can never sell your personal information. So it just feels cleaner to me to do it this way.
I mean, in let's say Google never became evil and they
Yeah,
promise, "Hey, we're not gonna sell your information." The chances of them not getting hacked some point down the road, no matter how egalitarian and optimistic and privacy focused these people are, the chances of them never getting hacked
yeah,
in today's day and age, with like every company in the world getting hacked at some point, like it's just better safe than sorry, just like not storing anything. And so that's why that's another great thing is you don't
yeah.
have people who can build models around you personally if they
No,
get the information.
I know it's also you have this trend right now, which I see come by on Reddit sometimes, where it's like, "Tell me what you know about me," and they ask it to ChatGPT, and they very proudly share like, "Oh, it said this and this." I'm like, "That's scary, man. I don't want ChatGPT to like accurately describe. Yeah, you live here, you do this, you're probably into this stuff." Like I
Yeah, it's
prefer,
insane.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, maybe some people just don't care that much about it, which is fine. Like everyone can decide that for themselves, but yeah, obviously these like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, whatever, they are the biggest honeypots ever at this point because
Yeah.
you share your most private information, like even medical stuff and such, with like OpenAI or whatever provider you use, and that's linked to your IP, to your credit card that you're paying with. It's very easy to link it all together. So I feel like, yeah, I hope they have very good security and protection, and they probably do. But I feel like if there's ever going to be a big hack, that is such a valuable treasure trove of data to have.
Well, and the worst part is they're doing the freemium model.
Yeah,
So how many people are just getting hooked on it using the free version, and then they're just building up these entire databases of information about these people. And I catch myself doing it with the Chat GPT Mac app. I just
yeah.
out of habit. I'm like, no, stop doing that. Stop using it. And so it's like you have Nano in Nano GPT. Use it.
Yeah, yeah. No, but it makes sense. I also wonder sort of how many private keys and API keys and whatever have accidentally been sent to like OpenAI servers and whatever servers just because like you're copying a bit of code and sometimes it goes wrong. I've caught myself at one point almost doing it. I'm like, no, 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 not this Python program that I built.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
I've done that with my passwords to websites.
exactly,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
I thought I copied something over it, and then I hit command paste and just enter really fast in DuckDuckGo, and it's like, "Your password doesn't show up in our there's no search history for this password." I was like, "Thank
Which
God."
is good.
It's like,
Like
but now it's out there, and it's like, "Damn it."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we that's why we prefer just not even like just to be clear to people. So all the conversations and all the prompts are stored locally on your device. So it's not like if you talk to one of the models, you can never sort of get the conversation back. We just if you use it on your phone, it's stored on your phone, unless you like clear your cache. Then the conversations are gone, or you decide to click the delete button that we have on our website, then we like delete it for you from your own cache. But yeah, that's the place they're stored. So you have the sort of full control over it yourself.
And you said so, explain it to people 'cause I feel like I have an intermediate understanding of it, and you still had to explain it like 7 times about why what I was asking for couldn't really work or wasn't necessary. So explain the actual process of who owns the servers, what the servers do versus what's happening on your on the person's own computer.
Okay. So you mean with the prompts and how to get sent and stuff, right?
Yeah. And
So
why
essentially,
this is a concern for some people, like that one video I sent you.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. So what some people prefer to do is to you have open source models which anyone can download, and you can run them locally on your computer. It takes like some tech skill to set up, but it is possible. You need a strong enough computer for it, all that kind of stuff. But that is like the most private way to use a model because you can keep your computer completely offline. None of the information ever gets sent to any server whatsoever. So you can be like completely secure in knowing that your prompt isn't like sent anywhere, stored anywhere. We, of course, as an internet service, cannot do that. So what we do is, depending on which model you use, we see the prompt come in and we sort of send it on to, for example, OpenAI. But all that OpenAI sees is that message without any IP linked to it, without any user ID linked to it. To OpenAI, all of it just comes from the same source, like one source, which is us. If you start a second conversation and you ask a different question, there's no way for them to link the two together. Like they're just completely separate, nothing identifying them as being the same person, unless like you copy
Unless you
paste your
typed
name
your
in.
name and address and social
Yeah,
security number
yeah.
in each of your prompts.
Yes, which I would not recommend. But yeah, so the video you showed was for people who want to do all of this completely locally. So essentially, you set up the model locally on your computer. And then I think what you sent was a way to then query that local model from like an online service. So instead of using an actual online service, your request, like your prompt that you send, gets sent to the model on your own computer. So that's obviously even more private. The downside is you don't get to use like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all those models. And most people won't have a strong enough computer to actually run the bigger models because they are quite demanding on your computer. Like they're big files and they need like a good CPU or GPU. So for all those people who are unable to run local models themselves or also want like the closed source models and just a lot of different models, we're like as private as you can get pretty much. So I think that's
So
the
essentially,
sort of
you're like a Bitcoin or Ethereum mixer, but with
yeah,
prompts.
that's kind of one way you can see it. Yeah, we're sort of a proxy in between you and whatever service provider there is. So for them, like normally they would see your IP and such, of course, but like all of it gets sent via our like middleman, you can almost call it. So to them, there's nothing that they can do to see that it's you sending it. So yeah, in a way, yeah, a mixer has like kind of negative connotations, I guess nowadays, but that is
Yeah.
sort of it is a close
In terms of
description, yeah.
legality, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So just to clarify, the LLM actually is still storing the prompt. They just doesn't know where it came from, right?
So with all the
You guys aren't
services we
storing
use,
it.
no, we don't store it. With all the service providers that we use, we have sort of the maximum privacy settings so that we delete, like we sort of request deletion of the data to the maximum that is possible. But with, for example, OpenAI, Anthropic, they store prompts for 30 days, I believe, for like legal reasons in case a government wants to sort of look at them.
Got yeah.
So, for example, they're very censored models nowadays. But if someone was to go like, I want to build a bomb, like give me instructions on how to build a big bomb, then that will be stored in the logs. And then I guess the idea of it is if there is then an explosion in the next few days in the place where you were prompting about, they can go to OpenAI and be like, hey, we saw, like, we know this happened. We think they maybe used an LLM. Can we see your logs? And then what OpenAI would see is that the request came via our server, but like unfortunately we literally would not be able to tell them what user sent that prompt just because we have no clue. But yeah, so OpenAI, Anthropic do store the prompts temporarily. They delete them. I believe it's after 1 month. I would have to look at their exact privacy policy, but then they store them in a way that it cannot be linked to you.
Gotcha. And are you worried at all about it pointing back to you and then you not being able to point to anybody else? About like eventually like governments maybe being concerned about that or
Like in a way, I feel like all of the models have their own censoring built in, right? So it's like if it's a question you can ask the model and get it to return something to you, then it's a valid question to me. If there's no way to get the answer from the model, then yeah, you won't get an answer from us either, just because we have nothing to pass back to you. So I feel like it's not actually going to be possible to do this kind of stuff. But if it is, then yeah, it's the same as running a model locally, unless it's like OpenAI. But then I feel like okay, OpenAI is sending the answer back to us, so it's like they're filtering, censoring that's going wrong. If it's an open
Yeah,
source model, yeah, it's a model anyone can run, right? Like if that's the kind of stuff you want to do, I would recommend just running it locally on your computer. That's probably the safest option,
yeah,
which I think, yeah, I think people would not use our service for that just because it's not, even though it's got great privacy, right? Like if you're doing stuff like that, you probably want the absolute maximum privacy, so you're going to run it locally anyway.
yeah. And I mean, and it's a good point is that each of these LLMs are supposed to be censored for specific things like child pornography, like famous people being naked or stuff like, like revenge porn and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's it and I think that this is the one thing that hopefully governments will take into account is that these LLMs have to be responsible for themselves. We can't expect everybody working in conjunction with them to do all the legwork when they're the ones creating it. Because
yeah.
that's
It's
it.
kind of
Like,
difficult, right? Like I don't know. We have discussions about this here sometimes as well, because it's like, okay, you can create a deep fake online, or you can draw one yourself. And it's like, okay, how different are the two, right? Or I don't know, write a story that's like would not be, or that would normally be censored by the models, and I can just distribute it to people, or like put it in the photocopier or put it online. Like, yeah, it's hard for me sometimes to. It just makes it a lot easier to do this stuff, right? That's the difficulty. Like, I would not be able to draw a deep fake of Scarlett Johansson, and I'm sure there's many, many models that can
yeah,
do that for you. So it does become a lot easier. But yeah, I would say the legality kind of should be the same as just artists drawing it themselves, I guess. But yeah, I'm not an expert on this, sadly.
yeah. I mean, it does I mean, my concern is that it becomes like the next Facebook, where those companies are like, oh no, we're just we're a service provider. We can't control what people put on the internet. And it's like, well, in this situation, they're the ones creating the reply.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's true.
hopefully government will hold them 100% accountable. Like I can ask a physicist to help me create a bomb. Like it's his responsibility not to give me the answer to it.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Like
true.
at a certain point, you can't hold the person asking the question responsible just for asking the question. Up
Yeah,
to a
I think
point. And so
I think that makes sense, but at the same time, for example, Llama, Facebook released that as like an open source model, and the version they released is like censored for this kind of stuff, right? So if you try and get it to tell you how to make a bomb, it will be like, no, I cannot do that. But then there's always people sort of hacking away at it locally to try and remove the restrictions it has. And then it's like, okay,
yeah,
then is Meta still responsible? Like, it's not exactly the model they released, but also this person hacking away at it would not be able to build this whole model by themselves. So
exactly.
yeah, that makes it difficult for me to decide like what the best way to do it is.
And I mean, they're going to have to constantly. It's going to be like a browser or any other app. You constantly have to be patching vulnerabilities, and the new vulnerability is going to be people brainwashing the LLM into giving them information that it's not supposed to give them. And it's going to be like a social engineering hack where you convince the person at AT&T to give you access to an account that isn't yours. That's essentially what they're doing with these LLMs, right? Because it's like, I mean, they're doing a little bit of hacking, but there's people are doing it just verbally in communication with the LLM, tricking it into believing things that aren't true.
Yeah, yeah, that's one way to do it, but another way to do it is to literally take the Facebook model, like say Llama 3.1, and it has a bunch of parameters it's been trained on, pretty much. But if you can adapt some of the weights in the model, for example, or train it in a slightly different way, like it's an open source project in many ways, or open source weights, you can change a lot of stuff in there and just run it locally on your computer. And there's no way that Meta can then say, hey, that's not how you're supposed to use it, right? Or they would just have
Yeah.
to stop downloads of it completely. It's actually the mixer example from earlier. So if someone puts code online for a mixer and it runs in a decentralized way, or someone manages to run it locally to, yeah, where that's kind of difficult with crypto, I guess, running it locally. But like once open source is out there and people start messing with it locally, it's really hard for any company or entity to do something about it, even if they disagree with how the person is using it. So I see your point, but I think it's going to be really difficult to, yeah, stay on top of this really.
I posted something on Twitter today because I mean, I feel like you and I are talking like just, the first layer of the onion, and there's, 1,000 layers down. And I just feel like AI is the next atomic bomb. It's just a matter of when it's going to go off. Something big is going to happen with AI, and until that happens, like no one's really going to want it to be, you know, legislated to any great extent, because they're going to like, oh, we want to keep growing and keep building, but like something big is going to happen. It's just a matter of when, because this is too powerful of a tool for something insane not to happen with it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I try not to think about it because it is super scary. Like how easily, like I think of those villages in India where people started spreading misinformation on Facebook and Telegram, and then they went on a rampage and killed a bunch of people
Oh
for
yeah.
stuff that wasn't true. And that was just, people spreading propaganda and misinformation on Facebook, let alone using something as powerful as AI and an LLM.
Yeah. That's always the difficulty with it, right? It makes everything a lot easier. It's, yeah, I guess the Facebook comparison is a good one because it makes it a lot easier to communicate with people. Like I am not a big fan of Facebook, but it has a lot of positive stuff in the world as well. But then, yeah, it also allows people to spread misinformation. And WhatsApp allows you to message privately with your friends, but it also allows you to message privately with, I don't know, a hitman. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's, but an AI just amplifies all of that like times 100 probably. So yeah, I get your point. I think something will probably go wrong at some point, just because a lot of people have suddenly gotten access to a lot more tools. Uh, the question is, yeah, the question is how bad would the thing that happens be, and kind of what can we do about it? Just because the running models locally for these bad actors is already possible, and already they're quite advanced, these models. So I don't know. It's always too easy to say the cat's out of the bag, but it does feel a bit like the cat is out of
Oh
the
yeah.
bag since like a year ago.
I mean, somebody literally gave somebody a grenade, pulled the pin, and just walked away. And it's like,
Yeah,
all right, be safe.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, and the person's like, why am I holding it this way? And they're like, oh, you'll figure it out. It's just
yeah,
like, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
it is kind of scary to think about. But let's not doom on the focus on the doom and gloom. Why don't you share with everybody what's going on out where you are right now?
Oh yeah, so yeah, okay. So since about a month, I'm at the network school, which, if people haven't heard of it, I think if you go to ns.com, there's a bit about it. Essentially, it's Balaji Srinivasan, who's an early crypto investor and a big tech investor in general. I think he's invested in like 1,000 companies. He wanted to build a place where people that are excited about future tech, so like AI, crypto, honestly, just any sort of very tech futuristic stuff, could come together and learn from each other, socialize with each other, also learn from like lectures that are being given. So, for example, Balaji himself has spoken here a few times, but also Vitalik from Ethereum, a few others. I'm actually not sure to what extent I should be saying all the names, but like big players in tech essentially come by here. So it's like a fantastic place to learn about all this tech stuff, to meet with other people just randomly at breakfast, at dinner, whatever, because you're all in the same place, and talk about these sort of future subjects. And then there's also a big health component to it because, yeah, one of the things you need is like people into tech. But if you really want to be the optimal version of yourself, you need to be in good health, like mentally, physically. So there's also, I don't know if people know Brian Johnson. He's the Don't Die guy. So he's very much into health, into
Yeah.
longevity, and he and Balaji have set this up together. So one component is the learning and like learning about tech stuff and future stuff and AI and crypto. The other part is the health and wellness, pretty much stuff. So we do like an average day is like you work out in the morning at like 7 a.m. You have breakfast with a ton of interesting people. Like some might be into AI, some are like into production, like video productions. Others are, I don't know, have set up a new form of governance for a startup city or something. It's just a lot of very interesting people together. And then there's courses during the day, either taught by like your co network schoolers or by lecturers that are coming in. And yeah, it's just a great way to sort of bring together people who are enthusiastic about this stuff. And the long term plan is to grow it to a sort of town or city, depending on how far into the future you're thinking. Like there's enough space to scale it up to like 100 times the people there are now. It's a very nice place to live as well. It's a yeah, it's surrounded by good people talking about the stuff I find super interesting, with a big health component, which I also find super interesting. So been here about a month now, and we'll be here another 2 months roughly. So the program starts with like a 3 month pop-up city, they call it, from September 23rd to December 23rd. And yeah, that's the network school in short.
And are you out there by yourself, or can people bring family members, or like how does that work?
Yeah, so people can bring family members. My co-founder might actually be coming over at some point, so that would be fun. My girlfriend's also here. There's a few people who have brought their like family, their kids. A lot of people who are just here by themselves. So they're here for like 1 to 3 months. Some people go shorter, some people go longer. So it's a bit of a mix of everything. I would say most people were hesitant to bring over their families at first, just
Yeah,
because it's this completely new thing, right? And it's like, okay, let's scout it out a bit first. But
that's probably a
earlier
good
during
idea.
this conversation, the door opened and a kid walked in. So there are a lot of kids around here now as well, and actual families. So that's pretty fun. But yeah, it's a bit of a mix of everything.
Nice. And what are
Yeah.
you specifically doing there? I mean, like, are you? Is it just Nano GPT focused, or like, are you like explain what you're doing there?
So what I'm doing here is not that different from what I do back home. So most of my days nowadays are spent working on NanoGPT in some way. It's just here I do the same, but my breakfasts, my dinners, my lunches, and my random conversations I have during the day have gotten a lot more interesting, just because you're surrounded with people who like are kind of into the same stuff you are, but come from a slightly different background or have a slightly different topic that they know a lot of stuff about. So it's been super useful even for NanoGPT. One of the providers that we use actually happened to come by. I ran into him at the water cooler, and he's like, "Oh, you're Nano GPT. Yeah, I remember you guys. Like, you were one of the first to use our service." So yeah, it's just I think it's like a sort of incubator university vibe where you have a lot of people, intelligent people interested in the same stuff. So it's a great sort of environment to be in general.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
but yeah, in
And
terms of my day to day, it's honestly not that different from what I would do back home. Just more interesting people, more structured food and workouts, and yeah, a nicer. It's a very nice place to stay as well. Like it feels very fancy.
are you doing a lot of red light therapy?
No, no red light therapy so far, unfortunately. So, Talmadge, who calls himself Brian Johnson's blood boy, he's like his son, is here, but I haven't seen him set up red light therapy yet. Uh,
Okay.
so maybe that's like a V2 thing or something that's coming in the future. But
It was funny. I was joking around with a family member today on the phone about, and that came up. And literally 20 minutes later, an article pops up from the New York Times saying, or from Wirecutter saying, Yeah, we tested a bunch of red light. We don't recommend any of them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, I haven't done it
well,
myself, so I don't know what to tell you about that. I can tell you the Blueprint food is surprisingly good, and it
really?
does all feel very healthy. Yeah, it's like it tastes a lot better than I expected. Like the nutty pudding. I don't know how deep you are into this Don't Die Blueprint stuff. The nutty
No,
pudding
explain
is
it. Explain it.
fantastic. Yeah, so essentially, the Brian Johnson, who's the guy behind Blueprint and Don't Die, his whole thing is he wants to live healthily as long as possible, essentially. So he spent millions of dollars optimizing every aspect of his health over the past few years, and now he's kind of building that out to a thing that anyone can use or like get to 90, 95% of what he's doing, because like red light therapy or some of the stuff he's doing is expensive, but the basics are good nutrition, do your workouts, get good sleep. So it's like very basic stuff, but at the same time that's often like pretty hard to actually do, right? Like getting good food, getting good nutrition.
Yeah.
Like, okay, do I have to cook all this like difficult food every day? And so here we just have all these blueprint dishes around us all day and very little in terms of bad food around us, so you're not very tempted to get bad food. And then nutty pudding is like the breakfast that is in Blueprint every day. So it's like berries, nuts, some chia seeds, some olive oil, and it just tastes fantastic. Which yeah, shouldn't be surprising if you hear the ingredients, but I think many people assume like the very healthy food doesn't taste well, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is great. Like I could have 10 of these.
So is Blueprint essentially just like any of the other made to order meals that are delivered to your door?
So Blueprint has like a whole range of products, really. So part of it is like the nutty pudding in a sort of powdered form. Some of it is supplements. Some of it is like an olive oil. I think that's actually the three main things, like supplements, versions
Okay.
of the food, and olive oil. But Blueprint is also sort of a whole health protocol for people to follow. So it's like emulating kind of what Brian Johnson does, or like emulating 90% of it, and just not having to think about, okay, what do I want to eat today? It's just like, okay, cool, Blueprint's got this covered. I can just follow the recommendations they have, or like the weekly menu that they recommend. And then here, that's made even easier for us because we don't have to cook it ourselves. We just have
Nice.
Blueprint stuff come in, and you do pay for it,
Sure.
but you have Blueprint stuff come in and you just eat that, and you know you're like eating healthy. So yeah, I really like it, to be honest.
And what was the deciding factor that made you commit to going for 3 months? Because I'm
So
assuming you have to pay to go there. It's like paying to go to
yeah,
any school, right? Okay.
yeah. So it's €1,000 or $1,000 per month for the like school plus housing and co-working and everything,
Well,
which
that's
I
not that
think
bad.
honestly is really fair. Like it's not
Yeah.
expensive, and I can tell you like it feels pretty fancy. And then food
And that's
is
including the
another.
food?
No, no, no. The food is another, I would
Okay.
say, 15 to $20 a day, pretty much. So I think all in, you're like 15, 1600 a month, maybe.
Which for
Not
for a
sure how.
Westerner isn't that bad.
It's honestly not that bad, and like the facilities are just really good. Like I'm on Starlink right now, which is also kind of cool. There's like a ton
Oh,
of
wow,
cool
nice.
tech stuff going on. It's like yesterday, everyone got a DNA test in case they wanted to do one, just because that's like. Yeah, so and then other people set up some course here, and you're like, oh cool, I never knew I wanted to learn about brain computer interfaces, but like nice to have an expert here.
Yeah.
So it comes with a lot of extras.
That's wild. That's
Yeah,
insane. Did you have
yeah.
to pay for the DNA test?
No, no, just yeah,
Thrown
got it
in
for free.
there? Nice. And is
Yeah.
Starlink included, or do you gotta pay extra for that?
No, Starlink is included, like the Wi-Fi and the co-working and such are all included. Table tennis is
Nice.
included as well. uh, and the swimming pool and that kind of stuff. So that's why I say it does feel fairly fancy. Like we were warned beforehand that this was going to be frontier, not fancy. And I got here, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, if this is not fancy, then I don't know what is.
You gotta think of the people who are funding it, like, they're billionaires, so for them, it's probably
Yeah,
not fancy.
I don't know, man. Like if you saw it here, yeah, maybe it's not, but yeah, I can like if this is stuff people are into, I would really recommend looking into it. or like contact me if you want to hear a bit more about it or more information. You can apply online. It's like they have a ton of applications, so there's a bit of a backlog. But I think if you have like an interesting enough background or like a good enough reason to want to join, it's possible to sort of jump ahead in the queue in some cases. But yeah, look into it if it's something that sounds interesting to you. Like my experience has been really good so far. I'm not being paid to say this. I am paying actually for this. So yeah.
Do you want to talk at all about your experience at the Fed or at the central bank?
Yeah, sure. So I actually did a podcast about this just after I left the central bank, but it's in Dutch, so most people are not going to be able to listen to it and understand it. But essentially, I started at the central bank in I think 2018, must be 2018, yeah. And I did like a young professional program, which is a very fancy term for you do a few different roles within the central bank, a few rotations. And then I started in like financial markets. I supervised insurance companies, and then I ended up supervising banks, Dutch banks, mostly the fintech banks. And that was honestly really fun. Like the teams are super small. I think I supervised most of those fintech banks with one or two colleagues, and you just learn a ton about how these banks work. I've always been interested in the financial system. Like I was into crypto before I ever joined the central bank, just because I find that kind of stuff fascinating. Like how does it work? And I figured there was no better place to learn the other side than the central bank itself. So I had a few roles there, and then during my time there, people noticed I was sort of the crypto guy. Um, so I
Can't
would
hide
always
it.
be the one. Yeah, no, it's hard, man. Like I mean, many of the discussions in central banks are they start from the basis of deflation very bad, inflation necessary. And I was probably the only person in the central bank that was like, okay, but like let's actually look at that assumption. So those were always very funny discussions to me. But yeah, so I was kind of known as the crypto guy. And then at one point, the Dutch central bank was going to lead a working group on crypto, which is you have the IMF and you have the sister organization of the IMF. And the sister organization sets like policy internationally. So they're kind of the ones who would talk about, okay, this crypto thing is not going away. Let's coordinate with a bunch of countries and figure out, like, okay, what should our policy around crypto be? So the Dutch central bank chaired that, or maybe still chairs, I don't actually know, chairs that committee. And so they needed someone who actually knew a bit more about crypto because, frankly, most people within the central bank knew like nothing about crypto. So they asked me if I would be interested in taking that role. And it sounded interesting, but at the same time, I was like, okay, yeah, but it's like crypto within a central bank. Like, how much can I actually do? And they were like, yeah, no, we can, like, you can decide or help decide what the policy is going to be. And it's like, nothing is set in stone yet, all that kind of stuff. So it sounded super interesting. So I, yeah, moved to that role, which I think officially I was a crypto policy expert or crypto policy lead, depending on who you asked at what time. And my role was essentially sort of largely advising our higher ups, like board of directors and stuff, like explaining to them how crypto works, advising them on what our sort of policies maybe should be, which honestly it was super interesting in many ways because yeah, you get to really discuss with people that have like way more experience in central banking than I did, but way less experience with crypto than I did, right? So it was sort of the straddling of the two worlds was super interesting to me, but I got quite sick of it like fairly quickly, just because it turned out that the sort of freedom to decide on policy stuff was way smaller than I'd been told. So it would be totally fine to say something about crypto or to go a certain direction, as long as that was like as long as it came with the conclusion of crypto bad, central banks good. So I kind of foresaw beforehand that this might be the case. So I just went into it thinking like, okay, best case, this can be really good for crypto and for people in the Netherlands, in the Eurozone. It's great if central bankers at least learn a bit more about it. But then after a while, it felt very much like I was explaining the pros and cons of crypto because Like obviously there's also a lot of scams in crypto. There's like people trading meme coins and losing their money, and like there's also a lot to dislike about the way crypto currently works, or at least about trading in crypto. So I would explain the cons, but then I would also explain like, okay, but this, it can make transactions so much more efficient in many countries. Like people would love to own crypto rather than like being inflated away by their central bank. It's like a huge efficiency gain in every way, and then it would always sort of be like, that's very nice, those like pros, that's great, but like, can we talk a bit more about those cons? Like, can we write those down for a second? So that got a bit annoying. So at one point I concluded, I think I am not contributing that much anymore. Like it feels like I can do more positive for the way our financial system works and for the way we can expand crypto from the outside rather than being inside the central bank. So definitely had a good time there. And like I'm not as big a central bank hater as many in crypto, just because I think I know them a bit better, and I know like people don't go to work at the central bank with this sort of evil intention. They're like honestly all very good people and like very well-meaning people. They just come from a very different background where if those are your assumptions, for example, that inflation is needed, and that is kind of what it takes to get into a central bank, if that is your base assumption, it is very hard to understand why crypto might be good. Like if you're unwilling to challenge that assumption, then yeah, your conclusion is always going to be crypto bad, central banks good. So they are in many ways doing the best they can, just within a framework that I don't think holds completely true. So yeah, that's I afterwards I quit. I actually ended up doing the crypto policy job for only 3 or 4 months. I'm not completely sure. Left the central bank and well, like traveled for a while, became a consultant for a bit, and that's afterwards I set up NanoGPT.
That's pretty insane. I just can't. I mean, the fact that anybody in crypto used to work at a central bank is pretty wild.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is quite funny. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely been useful. Like I can really understand the central bank arguments as well, and I can understand that they are kind of just trying to do good as well. And many of the like the technology behind crypto, they are honestly like quite fond of in many ways. It's not like they want transaction costs to be high or for people to pay a lot when they do remittances, for example. They just cannot get over the fact that it needs to have a central point that they can like control in a way, or that they must be able to set the interest rates and they must be able to set the money supply and they must be able to like intervene in the market if necessary, that kind of stuff. So it's sort of the weird part where they quite like crypto as long as it's centralized, which is like completely against
Yeah.
the yeah. It's like there's no point then, pretty much.
It's funny because I feel like I'm somewhere like in the middle of all that where I think crypto's great, but I also think central banks are great because there's no reason for Russia to invade the Netherlands to steal what is it the kroner? Like what's your
We have
dollar there?
euros.
Oh, euro. Like to steal your euros because it's like whatever. It's like if every country has their own currency. I guess with the euro it's different, but it's just like what and you go back to Russia with it. It's just like okay, well, it's not. Whereas if you go there to steal their gold, gold has value everywhere, and now all of a sudden you have this international monetary tool.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah.
kind of feel that way with Bitcoin, where it's just like they're gonna want to steal from everybody. I mean, USD is essentially like that because everybody accepts USD. So it's not necessarily the greatest argument of mine, but I understand the concept behind it. It's like, why would we want to let Russia manipulate the price of gold and affect our ability to do what we're doing in America if we're using the gold standard? It's like by having our own currency that we control, the inflation rate or deflation rate. I can understand the value of that, especially as like the leader of a country. Because even Trump was like that. He's like, "Oh, Bitcoin sounds great, big blah blah," and then he becomes president. He's like, "Oh, hell no!" He goes, "I want to be ruler. I want to be the king of this country." It's like I want to have complete control over the monetary system. It's like why would I want to let people in Afghanistan manipulate the price of of my currency. And so I
Yeah,
think people who aren't leaders are very opinionated about central banks, and then once they become leaders, they're like, "Oh, this is actually really smart in terms of security for our own country."
I think in a way it makes sense. I also think in another way, like, do I as a citizen enjoy my money being debased? Like, no. Like, if I could choose to hold euros that I know are being debased, or I can hold euros that are not being debased, then I will hold the euros that are not being debased. So it's like, in the end, a country and the leadership of a country consists of whatever people as a whole vote for, right? Or what they want to happen. Um, and I feel like many people just don't really even understand inflation and debasement enough to like understand what's going on, I guess. Because I feel like anyone will tell, like, if you give people that choice, like, do you want your currency to be debased or not? Like, everyone will say like, no, like, stop making my money worth less. uh, so I feel like that's kind of the sort of difference in opinion between indeed the leader of a country and the people actually living in the country and holding the money that is being inflated away.
Yeah, I guess like my counter argument to that is, how many $20 bills do you have from 10 years ago?
Not necessarily 20, like not necessarily the bills, but like any form of money I hold in euros. Like, you do hold some money in euros, right? Like, or well, you don't, but like in dollars,
Yeah.
you presumably hold quite some money in dollars. It doesn't have to be physical, like physical dollars, but anything you keep in a bank or in dollars in any way is being inflated away. And if
Yeah, I
we
mean,
sort
if
of,
you're keeping like say $1 million in your bank account and you're not doing anything with it, the amount of interest you're getting is zero. But I mean, I
yeah,
think they do that for a specific reason. If they give you a zero account, like, or like, 0.015 whatever interest rate, because they don't want you to keep that money in the bank because it doesn't do any good for the country. And so they encourage people to invest in stocks or invest in housing or invest in public education, or, whatever, or schooling, or like they want you to use that money and put it to use as opposed to just like kind of hoarding it. And that's why, like, the thing about like Elon being the richest person on the planet, technically, like if his stocks all crashed tomorrow, he wouldn't be the richest person on the planet anymore, because his money is tied up in investments in stocks, and like that potentially is generating income for the country as well, and people investing and getting dividends and stuff like that. So my argument is like the amount of money people are actually holding, and they're like, oh, it hurts poor people. No, it doesn't. Poor people spend 90 to 100% of their paycheck every single month. They don't have any money left over. And if they do, they're saving up for a vacation, which they're, using within a year or something like that. So like your money isn't being debased within 1 year, in any kind of perceptual change. So like that's kind of my argument against that. So I see it from both sides, but in terms of like our modern system, most people are, especially the younger generation, they're investing in stocks. Like with Robinhood now being making it so easy,
yeah.
and E Trade and all these different one, old school people like OGs will know about E Trade, but like we've got these investment tools that allow us to not have money sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I can agree with that to an extent, but I also think the more the higher your net worth is, the less or the lower the percentage you will have in cash, right? So in a way, this is sort of quite a regressive tax. It's mostly a tax on people who haven't reached the level of I have a million, so I'm going to put most of it into stocks. Like, if you have $5,000 saved up, you're probably not going to be putting it into stocks, I would assume.
Yeah.
Like, you want to
Okay.
have like this sort of backup savings fund or whatever. And
Yeah.
then that's
In America,
considering the
they say you
US.
should have 6 months rent saved up, or like
Right.
6 month expenses saved up.
Right. Yeah, that's a fair bit, I feel like, for most people, right? To have that saved up.
Yeah. Most people don't have that.
No, I was gonna say that's hard to get to in the first place. So, and then the US and the EU are honestly the best countries for this. Like it's those are very rich places to be, right? So and it's easy to invest in stocks. Whereas if you look at the majority of other countries, so we traveled South America the past year for like 6 months. Argentina is like an annoyingly
Oh
beautiful
yeah,
example. Like
yeah,
not very beautiful for the people there, but like they are getting inflated away so much, and a lot of the economy is still cash based, right? And people save up by just putting money into the mattress or like a very basic bank account or whatever. They're not like
yeah,
investing in stocks. Well, they're trying to get the money out of the country, but like frankly, their money is mostly being inflated away. So yeah, I think in a position of luxury like ours honestly is. Yeah, you're not going to notice it 2% a year or whatever it is. Like that's why I don't expect the EU, the US, or Japan, whatever, like richer places to be the first adopters of this or like the most enthusiastic about this. But there's a lot of people in the world for who it makes a lot of sense that you don't want to hold stuff in cash because your cash is just being heavily debased, like way
yeah.
heavier than the 2, 3, 4% that we're used to. And I feel like for those people, crypto makes a lot more sense. And for those people, they like at one point it will make sense for everyone, I think, just because if you can choose between debasement or no debasement, like everything else equal, it's going to make more sense to go for no debasement. But for us, the push is not that big, right? The push
Yeah.
factor is like the 2% or whatever. Um, so yeah, I get your point to an extent, but I think it is quite relevant to a lot of people, I think.
Well, and just to be clear, I was talking about America alone. I'm not talking about any other country.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
yeah,
fair enough.
and the same thing goes with crypto. It's like the vast, vast, vast majority of people in this country, in the US, don't need cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
There's zero benefit because they don't have a need for it. Why would they want to take a risk on it? And I'm like, well, you're not thinking about people in Nigeria or Kenya who don't have a local doctor and need to ask some questions on NanoGPT. Like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
well, they also are probably going to have a different financial system in terms of inflationary currency, and they may so
Yeah, to me it's
take what
just
I
like
say in relationship to the U.S. and parts of Europe and nothing else. So
yeah, exactly. Like this was also sort of the thing I often had at the central bank where people within the central bank would be like, but we're doing like a pretty good job at like keeping inflation low and whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying to explain like that Dutch people would be like the best suited to move to a crypto standard or whatever. I'm just trying to explain to you why there are so many people in the world who are enthusiastic about this and who see this as very important and as a way of empowering themselves rather than like having central banks decide stuff for them. So I that's like we don't explicitly target nano GPT at like richer countries, right? I would much rather have a lot of people who can spend 10 cents only via nano than like one person that can spend 100, just because like if you can spend $100, like you're good. you
yeah,
you you can add funds via credit card anyway, like you don't really need nano. And
yeah,
so yeah, I feel like there's a lot more to gain for people in countries where like inflation is higher, or you don't trust your government, or you don't trust your banks. It's like a lot of reasons for a lot of people, I think.
yeah. I mean, your bank could get blown up by the Israelis overnight. Like Lebanon just did this yesterday or the
Yeah,
day before.
I mean, and even Lebanon itself is a great example, right? Because I think many people there had their money in banks, and then I'm not sure exactly whether the country decided to devalue the money and just didn't allow people to withdraw the money, or like it didn't get devalued, but people couldn't withdraw it anyway. I would have to look up exactly what it was. But like for people like that, it's like, yeah, obviously I'm not going to trust these banks anymore, right? I'm
Yeah,
going to do whatever it takes to get my money out some way, out of the system. And then for most people, the only option is cash, but then the cash gets inflated away. So yeah, I just wish more people had easy access to crypto. Like they didn't have to sort of suffer from this, yeah, lack of power, lack of being able to decide stuff yourself, really.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and look, I mean, all they need to do is put it in the stable coin that is Nano.
Yeah, yeah, it
Right,
is
a little bit
quite
of a Nano
stable, right?
slam right there.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't mind it too much. I feel like people don't like. I am obviously not very good at predicting prices. I have never been an active trader. I just see this as a long-term thing, like crypto as a whole, but also Nano specifically. I like would be very bad at telling you if the price is going to be higher or lower in a week from now. I just see
Yeah.
Nano fundamentally as like a great store of value and a great medium of exchange, which I think people like insanely underappreciate just how well it works. And I also think people really underappreciate how badly Bitcoin works, both as medium of exchange and store of value, and a lot of other crypto as well, to be honest. So to me, it's more of like a, I don't know, 10-year thesis or something that people will eventually figure this stuff out. And,
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, that's the way I see it.
Well, and it's also, it goes back to the idea, like, it's physically impossible to create more Nano, right?
Yeah.
It's not physically impossible to create more Bitcoin. It's happening
No,
every
no.
single 10 minutes. And so, and you just have to trust, because I went on a phone date with this woman, and she actually was into crypto, and she brought it up, and I was like, oh, thank God, now we can talk about it, and I don't have to feel freaked out by, like.
Yeah.
But she was like, oh, well, Bitcoin only has 21 million. And I was like, no, it doesn't. And she goes, well, it's going to. And I'm like, how do you know? How do you know it's not going to keep going once it hits 21 million? And she goes, well, and I had to explain to her, like, well, there's only X amount of developers working on it right now. And there's one person who kind of decides the final code that gets pushed through. So it's not very decentralized. It's not, so she had been hearing like a lot of like pro Bitcoin narratives. And she's like, well, Ethereum can easily, the developers can get hacked or blackmailed. And I was like, so can the Bitcoin developers. It's like there's no, like anything that can happen to one, one like proof of stake or proof of work can happen to another one. Like there's no
Yeah.
magical, magic invisible force shield around them.
No, in the end, it's like whatever the node runners decide to run, right? Like if you
Yeah.
write code that says, which I think like in Bitcoin might happen with like a till emission, if I feel like the security budget discussion will keep coming up over the next few years. So maybe people decide, okay, it is worth it to add a till emission so that there is enough money going towards security, and then stuff can be changed. It's not like it's sort of locked in stone or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like it is a changeable thing. There's a very strong social consensus, I think, that like 21 million is the absolute limit. So it is difficult to change that. But yeah, the way Bitcoin security works, you need to be able to pay miners, and if there's no other way to do that than through like a till emission or whatever you want to call it, then who knows? Maybe that's the way they go.
I think one of the biggest disservices the Bitcoin community did to their users and to crypto people in general is using the word immutable without any understanding of what it means, because like it's literally written in the white paper that it's not immutable.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the whole defense mechanism is that the chain can be rolled back if it needs to be, if there's enough consensus. Like
yeah,
that's literally the opposite of immutable. So,
yeah,
but in their mind, because Nick Carter or whoever says, "Oh no, it's immutable," they're like they just blindly believe it because they don't understand how stuff works. And then when you like show them the white paper, now they become completely disillusioned, which I guess is a good thing because you and I both know that, or don't know, but surmise that Bitcoin probably won't be able to be what it is now if it doesn't change.
yeah, yeah. No, I think so too. It's you have a lot of people I feel like in Bitcoin who like it as an investment, which I totally get. Like I understand why people want to invest and make money, and it's undeniable Bitcoin has been going up for a long time. It's been a good investment. I just wish people would look a bit more at what they're investing in and what the sort
Yeah.
of game theory is and what the thinking behind the way Bitcoin is set up is, what sort of the history of it is as well. Like you say, the white papers, like peer to peer electronic cash. Like, is that
Yeah.
is that what it is? Like, Is that what Bitcoin is nowadays? Um, I also feel like that's sort of partly the Twitter bubble that I'm in, just because on Twitter you talk to people and people rarely want to go into a long form discussion or a long form explanation of something.
Yeah.
As you probably are well aware, my threads and my posts are always way too long. I think most people just don't get through them. Uh, but like here, for example, I talk to people in real life, and then everyone is far more nuanced, even if they are like self-described Bitcoin maximalists or Bitcoin enthusiasts. People are far more nuanced, and if you can talk to someone for more than what is it, 280 characters, and if it's
Exactly.
not like anonymous through a screen where you're just going to call the other a shitcoiner and whatever,
Yeah.
suddenly the discussion becomes a lot more real. I feel like a lot more. It's a lot more facts in there. There's a lot more back and forth. So yeah, I think that's partially, sadly, just the reality of Twitter or X nowadays.
What do you think about the nano ecosystem in general right now, with the community still seeming to focus on comparing nano to Bitcoin versus traversing its own path and becoming its own thing? It still feels like, and it could just be the loud, the minority of voices are the loudest or whatever, but it still feels like it's constantly trying to compare itself to Bitcoin, and it's not a narrative that is working in my
Yeah.
mind.
Well, it hasn't worked out so far, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find this kind of difficult because I understand why people would want to compare it to Bitcoin, just because there is so much interest and money investment in Bitcoin. So it feels like, and because Nano is quite literally sort of easily comparable to Bitcoin, right? With Ethereum, with many other crypto, there's a lot of differences. Like Nano doesn't do smart contracts, whereas Bitcoin is built to be money, like store of value and eventually medium of exchange. That's like the perfect description of Nano as well. So I really get the comparison. I wouldn't say it's what I always focus on myself, but yeah, I guess I largely do in threads and stuff actually. But for us now, for example, with the adding it on NanoGPT and adding credit cards, we're not trying to explain why Nano is better than Bitcoin. We're trying to explain like you can use Stripe or you can use Nano, which is just a lot easier to use, lower fees, instant settlement. When it's about store of value, it's like, yeah, Nano is this fixed supply, it's decentralized. The game theory actually works, like it becomes more decentralized over time. But the difficulty I always run into is people hear crypto, they think Bitcoin. So even if you describe Nano all by itself, like if you describe it as a standalone digital currency, people are going to be like, oh, that's a bit like Bitcoin, right? Like, how does it differ from
Yeah.
Bitcoin? Or like, isn't Bitcoin better? So I think it's just really hard to not have the comparison all the time, just because, that is what people know. Bitcoin is what like 99% of people think about when they first hear of crypto. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the best way to go is there.
Yeah. It's tough because, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like when people ask questions, people aren't in the know, all they know is Bitcoin. It's frustrating because it's like you kind of have to explain it. And then essentially you kind of just have to sit there and shit talk Bitcoin, or else
Yeah,
why would Nano need to exist? It's like, well, because Bitcoin doesn't really work the way it's supposed to,
yeah.
or how it was envisioned. I don't know. Maybe Satoshi secretly did envision it becoming the way it is, and becoming worth almost $100,000, and
I don't know. It
maybe.
it feels from the sort of early writings, I guess, it feels very different. It feels like less of a focus on digital gold or on store of value, whatever you want to call it, and more of a focus on actually usable money, people using it for transactions, and the vending machine problem, how we could solve it. And I don't know. Like maybe we'll never know, but just from
Yeah,
everything I've read and sort of my experience, I guess early on, it felt far more digital currency. I felt like the digital gold thing was a thing that came up 2015, 16, I guess. And like obviously it's taken over the narrative for Bitcoin, I feel like, also
yeah,
because it is a great selling point. Like become rich, buy Bitcoin, become rich, is an easier selling point than save 1% on transaction fees. I just don't think it's going to be a long lasting argument, just because I don't think it's a good store of value. But it's a very easy to sell proposition, like especially Michael Saylor, right? He's good at explaining Bitcoin as digital gold. I think there's a lot of flaws to his assumptions. Like Bitcoin
I
moves
mean,
at
come on,
light
Michael
speed.
Saylor's like one of you're being polite. I'll be bad cop. Michael Saylor is the biggest grifter dumbass on the face of the planet. I mean, my God. But when somebody like Paul Tudor Jones goes on CNBC today or yesterday and is like, "No, I'm long Bitcoin." It's like, oh man, now everyone's going to be long Bitcoin, and he doesn't even have to explain it. Whereas when Michael Saylor tries to explain it, it's like a chimpanzee trying to comb his own hair, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, what? None of that makes sense, man. It's like,
What do you
what?
mean, man? It's a swarm of cyber hornets building an impenetrable wall of energy that you should mortgage your house for to buy. And like, yeah, I've been blocked
I
by him for
mean,
a long time.
I guess if you didn't grow up knowing what a snake oil salesman is, it's that's what Michael Saylor is. You're
Yeah,
just selling the most ridiculous, ludicrous thing and using words that don't make sense, but having enough panache and chemistry, and charisma where people are like, yeah, okay, cool. It's just like,
yeah. It just like I think he recently said something as well about like people shouldn't want to use it on chain. Like you should just want to use it custodially and keep it like in exchanges and such.
right?
And I'm like, okay, like
Absolutely insane.
are you really describing a decentralized digital money, or are we just talking about like an investment, to like term it kindly? Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think it reflects very well on crypto. This is like another issue I kept running into at the central bank, right? So it's like I want to defend crypto, but I also have to explain that actually, yes, I am also not very fond maybe of Shiba Inu and of people
yeah,
being told to mortgage their house to buy Bitcoin.
yeah.
That's always sort of first barrier you have to get through, where you're like, yes, crypto has its bad parts, but like actually there's a lot of value behind it, and it doesn't reflect well on crypto, I think.
And anybody listening, never mortgage your house to buy crypto, please.
No, please don't.
Just don't do it.
No,
What's your
no.
take on being a former central bank guy? Bitcoin essentially becoming a Wall Street investment tool that could have essentially be controlled by the central bank and any bank, like you said, because Sailor's openly talking about it just being used as IOUs at this point and not have any value. Like the
Yeah,
IOUs not having any value outside of trust us, we hold the Bitcoin.
yeah. So I think it kind of takes away the big actual value proposition behind Bitcoin. Like to me, the value in it is that it's decentralized and secure. That's like at the very core, together with the fixed supply, I guess. And I think that's the big issue with Bitcoin is while it is like decently decentralized now, like it's questionable to some extent, and it is quite secure, and it is fixed supply so far, it is trending towards centralization constantly. And it doesn't matter how good of a story you spin about this, if at one point it becomes cheap enough to attack Bitcoin and profit from it, like if you could go short on Bitcoin, for example, and successfully attack the chain, like do a 51% attack, mine empty blocks, whatever way you want to do it, that kind of kills the whole value proposition of Bitcoin. And then it doesn't matter if it's like Michael Saylor and a dozen other central bankers telling you like it's very valuable and Wall Street saying it's very valuable. Like once that happens and the security of it is gone and people cannot move their Bitcoin, for example, even those Wall Street banks, it's going to be a very hard story to sell. And I think people are going to be like running for the exit to be the first ones to sell the Bitcoin they still have on exchanges. So I feel like it's not so much about what the story does, it's more about can we actually fix this trend towards centralization, this trend towards lower security in Bitcoin. Because if we don't have that anymore, there is no value underlying Bitcoin. That is its whole value proposition. So yeah, I am not too optimistic on that line of thinking.
And explain the road towards centralization and how it's happening for anybody who isn't aware of how it's
Right.
happening.
Right, yeah. So you can either read like my probably 50-page tweet thread on this. No, so essentially the way new Bitcoin are created is through mining, right? Like mining is sort of the consensus mechanism in many ways. If you have 60% of the mining power of the hash rate, you could just decide to mine empty blocks constantly. Like don't allow any transactions in. You can like censor all transactions, but so far no one's over 50% that we know of. So people are constantly fighting and adding blocks on top of like what others have created before them. But anyway, so mining, the revenue is Bitcoin, and it's hard for a miner to change the price of Bitcoin. So the revenue is like relatively fixed. You can say, I have this much hash rate, so I'm getting this much in revenue. What they focus on, all the big miners, or like every miner really, is on the cost side because you want to optimize your profit. You cannot do anything about the revenue really. You want to optimize your cost per hash rate. And all of the costs associated with hash rate, like pretty much literally all of them, have like economies of scale. So if you're a bigger miner, you have access to cheaper capital. Like if you want to get a loan, you can buy ASICs, like the mining machines, in bulk and get a discount. The place you rent to put all of these ASICs, you can get like a discount if it's like a very big place that you can put them. You need to perform maintenance on them. You can get one maintenance guy who just is there constantly instead of flying one in every time it's needed. There's like 1,000 little things where you have economies of scale for the big miners. And it's not like they deny this themselves. Like there have been a lot of mergers where they're like, yeah, the only reason we're doing this is economies of scale. So you have economies of scale, but you don't really have much to counterbalance that, right? Because the ones that make the most profit get to reinvest the most. They grow more. They go from 14% of hash rate to 15 to 16. And I think if you ask any small miner, or like what used to be private miners or like small, just people doing it, they've been priced out pretty much. You need to have the
Yeah.
skill to be able to mine profitably. And I think that's a terrible thing. Like that is not the way Bitcoin was supposed to work. I don't think Satoshi exactly foresaw ASICs coming. But now that they are here, it's turned into a game of skill. It's turned into the bigger get ever bigger. And that is the exact opposite of what we want for a decentralized form of money.
For all of our native English speakers, he's saying scale, not skill. It's just his accent. So
I'm so sorry.
no, 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 it's okay. I know it, but just in case they're like, I could see some Bitcoiner coming out. He's like, "Oh, he's saying skill. He doesn't even know what the phrase is." It's like, no, he's has an
Economies of
accent.
scale, SCALE.
Yeah, yeah. I just with the way the crypto community is and how much they hate Nano and love to talk shit about Nano, I could see them pouncing on the most asinine, stupid thing as an excuse of why you're wrong
Yeah,
and
yeah.
saying you're not even using the correct word. How you obviously don't know anything about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. Like it's like,
After
oh,
this, I will spend an hour practicing the pronunciation of scale. Scale.
I just had to, just in case,
No, no,
just
no.
in
It's fair
case.
enough. Thanks.
So what do you think about? And so for people don't understand, we Milan mentioned it earlier about with economies of scale, because now all of a sudden it's not just somebody in their apartment running an ASIC or mining on their old laptop like they used to be able to do. Now people are building entire warehouses of ASICs that run nonstop, and that has effects on communities, that has effects on animals that live in the area, that has so just like fracking for oil and natural gas can have disastrous effects on communities if you crack the aquifer and all this polluted water, mixed with gas and acids, gets into the aquifer that people are getting their drinking water from and completely destroys the water supply of a community. Like it's happened in Pennsylvania a bunch of times. We're seeing in Texas, Marathon has a mining a warehouse in this small town in Texas, and people are actually having negative effects of having it so close to their homes. They're getting nosebleeds, they're getting migraines, they're getting dizzy spells, they're, it like actual physical negative impacts on human beings living too close. And because of the way Texas's county line laws work, because they're 2 miles away, but in technically a different county, they have no recourse. They
Mm.
can't like sue the county to get it to stop because they're not residents of that county. And then they're being told, well, just move. But now their property's worthless because nobody wants to listen to a Bitcoin mining farm just buzzing and humming all night long and like rattling your bones and rattling your bed. Nobody wants to listen to that, so they can't sell their house. So now essentially they have no recourse. Their home is worthless. They can't live there because them and their children are getting sick from it. I mean, this is the danger of Bitcoin, and it's only going to get worse as the economy's scale grows because it has to continue to scale up to keep that security of Bitcoin in place. So, like, what would you tell somebody who argues, like with Paul Tudor Jones, just randomly saying, "I'm long Bitcoin" because it's clearly a great thing? How do you broach that subject with somebody saying like, "Oh, fracking's great. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't affect people. It just provides a great service." How do you discuss that with people about Bitcoin?
How
I
do I
threw a
discuss
lot
that
at you
with
just
people?
now, so
What? Sorry?
I said I threw a lot of information at you now, just now.
No,
So
no, it's just I always find this difficult because it takes away from sort of what I think the biggest concerns are that Bitcoin enthusiasts would actually care about, because I feel like those people living close by and suffering from like the results of these mining farms, they are likely not going to be enthusiastic about Bitcoin in the first place.
yeah,
So the people you usually have this discussion with are Bitcoiners, and they have sort of a vested interest not to care too much about like the actual environmental impact and the sort of, yeah, I'm not sure what I call it, like the sort of effects that it's having in many places. All they care about is the price, right?
yeah,
So then I usually tend to focus just on, okay, but like aside even from the environmental impact, the price impact of decentralization decreasing is going to be big. But within the central bank, for example, many people did care about the energy usage, although I always felt like it was kind of a red herring, like it was just an easy attack vector for them. But yeah, I feel like to me, it's more of a sort of more of an efficiency question. So if mining was the only way that we could get this decentralized money, and if that meant it had negative effects on people, we would have to talk about the trade-off, right? Just like cars have, they have a negative impact from the pollution, but also they allow people to get around, so there's like a positive impact, obviously. So then we would have to talk about the trade-off. I think the most annoying part to me is we know there are better solutions, or I know there are better solutions, and we're not using them. So we have solutions that are cleaner in every single way, and they're better to use in every single way. They're fundamentally a better store of value, and we're not using them. And instead, we're using this energy wasting network where we're literally just wasting energy to determine who gets the next bitcoins and who gets to like centralize it
exactly.
further. So to me, it just feels like a huge waste, and it's an inefficiency that I hope the market corrects, because I feel like it's just not worth. Like I feel like it's not worth having all of these negative effects since we have something that's actually better. It's like, would you want to use an incandescent light bulb if you have an LED? Like, who's going to defend the incandescent light bulb? Yeah, okay, maybe not the best example. Like, there might be cases where you want the light bulb, but like, okay, you can buy this one fridge that's like literally 5 times less energy usage. It's the same price. It's better in every way. But then we have people who are like, no, but this old fridge, it's like I've
Yeah,
invested in this company that builds them, so I'm very, very optimistic. That to me is the primary annoyance. Like we should be getting more efficient with, just like, if there is a better option, we should be using it. And that to me is the biggest sort of gripe I have in terms of energy usage. It's not the energy usage itself, like all by itself. Like air conditioning uses a lot of energy. Yeah, fair argument. But if we can get more efficient air conditioners, we would use them. Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. There is something more efficient. Let's use it. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, that's the way I usually approach it.
And Bitcoin is only going to get worse. Like that's designed to need more energy, whereas most things usually are like they evolve and start using less and less energy over time, like a Mac computer, like the
Yeah,
Apple Mac Mini. You know, the M1 compared to the Intel processors, the amount of energy it's using is like 10% or 15% of what the in getting better outcomes. So they're optimizing their machines to need less energy and get better results, whereas Bitcoin is designed to need more energy for the same exact result, or
yeah,
actually for less of a reward.
yeah,
So, and then not to mention on top of that, now, I mean, there was competition for energy, but it wasn't as strenuous as it's now going to be with AI models needing huge warehouses to run these LLMs. And now they're going to be, you know, you have people like Google and Microsoft in talks with building new nuclear plants just to run LLMs because they say like that's the only way AGI can evolve. You know, they're going to be very concerned about some Bitcoin miner trying to take electricity from them. And I could see that becoming like a huge point of contention. Like, what's better for the planet? AI helping people every single day, helping every single person on the planet, or mining more Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah. But also just in terms of the Bitcoin miners, it will probably increase their cost, right? I mean, the more demand for
Yeah,
energy there is, the more competition, the more they're going to have to pay, which means like either the
more
hash rate is going to
centralization.
decrease or they need the price to go even higher, right? Or like higher fees, but that's clearly not happening so far.
Yeah,
But yeah, even just in those very simple terms, it's not good for Bitcoin to have this extra energy competition.
I couldn't agree more. What's your okay? So hold on for a second. I had the question in my head. Oh, let's go back to NanoGPT. You recently added a new option to create an account, whereas before you didn't need one. What happened? So, what was the reasoning behind it, and what's the benefit of it now?
Yeah. So we had a lot of requests for this, for being able to create an account, because essentially we really kept it as private as possible. So if people added a balance to their account, like if they went to our website, went to the wallet and sent in some Nano, it was only stored locally on their device. So it was stored in a cookie on your phone, essentially. We didn't store any like copy of it on our servers or whatever. It was just only on your device, which some people really liked, but other people, when you clear your cookies, it's gone. So they very much disliked seeing their Nano being gone. So what we
Yeah,
did was we would just always tell people,
deflationary.
yeah, super inflationary. Um, so we told people like don't deposit too much. Like Nano is literally instant and zero fee, so you can always keep adding in more. And most people did only deposit small amounts. They can withdraw any Nano they have on there. So we would always recommend people just withdraw. Like you can always send it back in like literally a second the next time you come to use our website. But not everyone did, right? It's like more convenient for people to just leave it on. You go to the website, you start typing immediately. I get it. Like it is more convenient. So sometimes people left the balance in there, cleared their cookies, and then they couldn't access their balance anymore, in which case we would have to manually return it to them. We experimented with having it automatically sent back to the address they sent it in from, but people were not very fond of that because some people sent in from a swap service or from
Oh
directly
man,
from an exchange or like from some wallet they didn't have control over anymore. So we
yeah,
decided not to do that anymore. So we would manually return when people reached out to us, but it always felt like really bad for people to have to go through that. And so many of those people requested like, can you add a way that I can just log into my account, I store the balance in there, and then I don't have to worry about clearing my cookies and stuff anymore. So we obliged, whatever the people request. So we made it possible to create an account with an email, or sign in with Google, or sign in with GitHub. So create with an email, you can literally use any email. We don't check to see if it's like a spam email or something, or a temp email, whatever. You can use anything you want to. So that's now an option for people in case they do want to store the balance on our servers instead of like having it on their own phone only. It just gives people an extra option. So the way we've done it is, people, it's still optional, so people can create an account if they want to, but they don't have to. And if they do create an account, they can log in from any device, and they can store their balance, so they can access it from any device. So if I send in 1 Nano on my laptop, I create an account like Milan at spamemail.com. I can then also log in on my phone, use that same balance. And just to be clear, creating an account still does not mean we store the prompts and the conversations. Those are still only stored locally on the device, just because we really don't want to have the conversations. If we do ever add that option to also have those stored on the server so that you can access them from anywhere, if we ever add that, we will make it very clear, like a button that you need to select, like, are you sure you want to store the conversations? It will be opt in, not something we do by default. But yeah, that's not in the works yet. We haven't, we're not working on even adding that.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't even think about that when I was using it the original time before you had accounts. I
Oh
completely
yeah,
forgot that it's like, oh yeah, if I clear my cache, because I didn't copy a seed phrase. So of course, like
yeah,
sometimes, and that's the thing, like sometimes we're just trying new things so often. I think like I personally just forget certain things. It's like, oh shoot, yeah, I'm glad. I like that option. Just being able to use like a DuckDuckGo email address or something like that, where it's just a spam address,
yeah,
just to
yeah,
have.
yeah.
When
So
we
exactly.
create an account, do we have access to the seed phrase?
No, so that was another option we considered, like doing a seed. But we've added credit cards recently as a payment option, and in many ways, we're trying to make this as simple as possible for people to use.
Yeah,
And frankly, seed phrases and like private keys are not very easy to use for the vast majority of people. Within crypto, maybe people do understand it, but the reason we dislike seed phrases is, first of all, just the convenience. Like, it's far less convenient than an email address. And second of all, I feel like it's kind of bad practice to get people used to entering their seed phrases
yeah,
on random websites.
yeah,
Like, I would prefer if people enter their seed phrases less into websites. So it's not something we really want to encourage. Like, if it turns out a lot of people really want this option, we can consider adding it, of course, but it's not our preferred option. We
yeah.
would
And
rather,
also, essentially, what you're telling people is you don't want them to have a ton of money on the account.
yeah, yeah, that's
Keep it
exactly it.
simple, a couple bucks here and there. What kind of credit card fee do you charge? Like if I were to add $20 worth of USD to it, and does it automatically convert it to Nano immediately?
So we don't add a credit card fee. We give a discount on Nano, just because honestly, that's what people like better. Like, no one likes seeing a fee added to their transaction.
Yeah,
So we've decided, okay, we eat the credit card fees, but we try and move people towards Nano over time, because, well, frankly, it's like better for us, right? Like, we pay less in fees. It's better for
sure.
Nano, which we are very fond of, and it's also better for the user because they get a discount. So we figured that's like a good way to approach it in general. Um, what was the other question? How much fees do we add? And
I completely forgot. I'm a
so yeah,
terrible
we
host.
don't we don't add any fees to the credit card transaction. We would just very much prefer if people use Nano or other crypto. Like, obviously, we also have other crypto that people can pay with. We
Yeah.
have Bitcoin Cash and Banano implemented like natively, so people can also deposit like 10 cents of Bitcoin Cash. And we have a bunch of other crypto that you can use via a swap service. So we use non-swap, which
Oh,
is,
so if I buy something with a credit card, it automatically your swap service converts it to Nano. and it's
No,
automatically.
no. So the people that add funds via credit card, it's just stored in USD.
Oh, okay.
If people add via other crypto, it gets swapped into Nano. So we have
Gotcha.
like
Okay.
one crypto, and so to be honest, like it's not just Nano that has the 5% discount, because the way we charge it is anything that gets sent in terms of crypto is immediately converted into Nano, and then we deduct from the Nano balance every time someone uses the service, and on those deductions we give a 5% discount. So even if you add funds via Bitcoin Cash, you also get the 5% discount.
Nice.
So in practice, it's a 5% discount on all crypto transactions, and then credit card people just pay the full sum in the hopes that maybe this way we can transition more people to using crypto.
Yeah. Do you eat the fees when when you're converting it from Bitcoin Cash to Nano? Like, do those
Uh,
fees
so,
get passed on to the user?
so Bitcoin Cash, we do like, I think I would actually have to check because all of this stuff is too complicated for me to implement, so it's Huggy doing it. But I think what we do is a 1% spread between just the current Nano price and the current Bitcoin Cash price to account for like we have to swap it pretty much. And
Yeah.
then once someone deposits Bitcoin Cash, we don't actually swap the 10 cents right away because there's no way to swap those small amounts. But we just credit the person with 10 cents worth of Nano immediately. And then every time we reach a certain threshold, we convert the Bitcoin Cash to Nano for ourselves.
Gotcha.
So in the
That makes
meantime,
that
we
makes
have some exposure.
No, that's a great idea. Well, you're not
Yeah,
eating
we
the
want to add this for
fees.
a lot more crypto. So if you go to the balance, you can see we have a lot of other crypto listed there, like Monero, Litecoin, Dash, Solana, a few more. And if you actually click them, it's not possible to add with those ones yet. It's coming soon. So we added them so people can get like they can enter their email if they want to, get notified when we add like Monero, for example. And then after we've notified people, we delete the email again. It's just like a sort of easy way people can stay up to date on is their currency being added.
Do you have I mean, do you have plans of having an email list for, like, random updates, or you just don't even wanna
Yes,
store emails for that?
right. So we are planning to do sort of a newsletter thing. So what we have right now is, I think we just pushed it live for API. I Let me quickly check our website. Yeah. So for our API, we have like you can get notified about API updates. So people can enter their email and then click notified. People can unsubscribe at any time. So any email, it will be very simple to unsubscribe. But if you're using the API, it's kind of useful to know if we make changes to it because like your stuff might break.
Yeah,
So we figured that's important to add. We also have an API channel in our Discord, so people that don't want to give their email can also just like join that channel. But we kind of want to do the same with just a regular newsletter email, so that people who don't use our service every day but do want to be updated, like especially now that we're moving to credit cards, right, or that we're adding credit cards, the crypto community uses like Twitter, Reddit, Discord, but many regular people they like email.
yeah.
They don't use Reddit. Like they wouldn't see an update from us if we posted it on our Discord. So for those people, we want to give the option to get notified via email.
And
So yeah, we are.
most long-term crypto investors that I've talked to never go on Twitter
That's
and
really
don't come
funny.
into contact with any crypto people outside of, like, they just invest in some Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, like, once every few months.
Yeah,
So, like, I think people forget. I think people in the crypto Twitter space forget that the vast majority of people aren't on crypto Twitter.
yeah, yeah. It's like this bubble we live in, right, on Twitter.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's a very fair point. Like, and it's probably way better for their mental health as well, not to be on
Yes.
on X so much.
So what do you I mean, we touched on it briefly, but and it's difficult because, like, what do you think about the price? It's like I feel like no matter what happens to Nano, no matter how many innovations, no matter how much people are building or using or whatever, just nothing's happening.
Yeah. it is a bit weird, right? Like I used to think there maybe really was some manipulation going on or something, but I've never seen any good proof of it. So it feels
Yeah.
very conspiracy theorist to think that. But honestly, I am not sure. I think part of it is many people got interested in Nano, and then BitGrill happened. And like
Yeah.
to us, it's clear that the Nano Foundation or like the Nano team had nothing to do with it. Like it wasn't their fault. But for many people, they got burned on Nano that way,
Yeah.
right? And then it takes a lot of, it's like an extra barrier to get back into it once you've had that experience. I still get this sometimes when I talk to people about Nano, and they're like, "Oh, that used to be Ray blocks, right? Didn't they like exit scam on BitGrill?" I'm like, "Well, let me tell you a story."
Yeah. God.
And then
Damn you,
other
bomber.
people, exactly, bad times. But and for other people, maybe they got interested in it during the previous bull run, and then the spam attack happened, and they concluded, okay, like, see, I knew that zero fee didn't work. That
Yeah.
was like very, I think, very painful for many people, and a very easy validation of zero fee does not work. And I don't think many people realize sort of the improvements in spam resistance. Like it takes some effort to get into that and start understanding it really. And if you've been burned, there's an extra barrier. So I feel like that's kind of the current status quo. And also Nano does not really have one big influencer who's like pushing for it, right? It's like Colin is not too active on socials. He's great at podcasts and socials, whatever. He just prefers to be like head down, focused on improving the protocol. And I think that kind of describes many people in Nano. It's like we like working on this techie stuff, we like improving it further, and no one's really pushing it much to the outside world. Uh, George is, of course, but like there's only so much one person can do.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what Nano is missing in many ways. I think it's like a lack of people knowing about it and really understanding it, and then a lack of hype around it, I guess, which is, it sounds terrible to say, but that's just a thing in the crypto space, right? It's like, it feels like as soon as Nano's price does start increasing, there are no more arguments against Nano, because every time you get into a discussion with anyone, it ends up with a price chart, which is extremely annoying.
And almost
But that
always the Nano BTC price chart, which is
it is, yes, yes,
yeah.
actually, yeah, yeah. So I feel like once that argument sort of goes away, it's going to be really difficult to argue against Nano. And I also feel like for many people that have already heard a bit about Nano, I like, if you didn't get any Nano, in hindsight, it's going to seem like such an obvious like win, like Nano.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, it's like I never realized this sort of zero fee, instant settlement, fixed supply with great game theory crypto. I never realized it was going to work out, so I didn't buy like $10 of it or whatever.
Exactly.
So yeah, I feel like it just needs that push. I hope maybe we can do that with NanoGPT. We recently posted about keeping our treasury in Nano. We're going to be adding more and more Nano to our stash pretty much, just because we see it as fundamentally a fantastic store of value. We're going to be explaining a bit more on our blog and stuff about why we think so. So maybe that can be a catalyst. I don't know. Maybe it's something else. Maybe some big influencer finally finds out about it and realizes like, hey, this could be big. I don't know. I'm patient. I think fundamentally it just works really well. I haven't been able to find anything where I believe in the long term as much as with Nano. But yeah, the price performance is puzzling to say the least.
Painful. And I mean, I could understand like the arguments in the past, like, okay, you don't believe in quote unquote pre mine, which is fucking stupid. Sorry, excuse my French, but it's stupid. You don't believe in fixed supply or, whatever, whatever. All these different things. And now with meme coins, all those arguments are gone
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
literally
They
all
really
created
are.
at the same time. It's like every argument that was used against Nano flew out the window with pump.fun. And it's just like, sure. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm never into the meme coins. I guess I've never gotten into them too much, just because to me that's not really what crypto is about, and I don't see a long-term future for them. But yeah,
Yeah.
if that proves anything, it's like hype is everything, right? Like
Yeah.
memes are everything. And
100%.
then the issue with those meme coins is there is very little that fundamentally backs that hype. Like yes, it's grown in price, but still it's useless. Whereas with Nano, it could very much grow in price and then it's actually useful. Like you can actually send it really easily, you can spend it easily. It doesn't have like a bunch of insiders who are still dumping on you or like so yeah, I feel like it just needs that push. And I don't know where it's going to come from, but I feel certain that it is going to come in time.
One of these days.
One of these days, yeah. But
Do
yeah,
you
like
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say like obviously don't take any investment advice from me
Yeah.
because I'm clearly like I've always been optimistic on Nano, and yeah, not always been good at predicting prices. So I'm
Yeah.
good at other stuff.
What's are you guys surviving off of Nano GPT, or you both keeping your day jobs, or like how's like are you paying yourself? Is there downward pressure on Nano because you're selling it every month to pay you guys each other a salary? Like how does that work?
Right. So
If you're able to
we
if you're comfortable talking about it.
yeah, no, that's fine. So we haven't sold a single Nano. Like we haven't sold any Nano at all. So far we've just been eating the cost of our company and getting in Nano. So no downward pressure from us, obviously. And now that we've added credit cards, the thinking is we use the income from the credit cards to pay our bills, essentially. And then whatever is left over, whatever profit we have, we convert to Nano, just because we see that as the store of value, as the treasury. So we haven't paid ourselves anything from the business yet. We hopefully will at some point. But no, I can survive off of savings and other income. So don't necessarily need to get an income. Like I didn't start NanoGPT to make money, to be honest. I just thought it was like a cool, fun project. My co-founder, I'll leave that up to him how much he wants to talk about it. But yeah, there's no downward pressure on Nano from us. Is the shortest and clearest version, I think.
Well, I mean, and in the long run, downward pressure from one company selling because they accept Nano, if that was affecting the price, then there are much larger concerns with
Yeah,
Nano.
definitely. Yeah, and I feel like we can say with pretty good confidence that we are adding more Nano than we would take out. Like, yeah, we like Nano. We see it as we would prefer to hold Nano over euros or USD or whatever it is.
Nice. Um, can you talk about the last spam upgrade
Ooh,
and the last time somebody spammed? Like, do you feel comfortable talking about that?
I can, but honestly, others are probably better at it. So if people really want to learn more about it, I would recommend like searching for nanocurrency and then yeah, quasi. I don't know how to pronounce this, but
That's yeah,
Patrick
quasi.
gives yeah, quasi. I don't know, QWAHZI. Like
Yeah,
he's great at explaining everything to do with spam, and everything to do with the tech in general. I also wrote an article about this, which I think you can find if you look for a Senatus bucket system or something, or Senatus bucket system Substack. Um, so the way I understand it is essentially Nano, the Nano network prioritizes transactions based on, first of all, the balance of the person doing the transaction, and then on how long it's been since you've done a transaction. So, for example, if your balance is between 1 and 2 nano, you get put into a specific category, into a bucket. If someone else has between 2 and 4 nano, they go into a different bucket. If someone has between 8 and 16, it's a different bucket. And then the node just processes one from each bucket every single time. And the one that gets processed first, the transaction that gets processed first, is the transaction from the person who has not transacted the longest. So the reason this works against spam is that spam usually tends to be very small amounts, right? People are spamming like 0.0001 nano. So they fall into a different bucket already. And then even if you are in that bucket, a spammer keeps sending transactions like every second. So if you have not transacted for the past, say, 6 hours, you take priority over someone whose most recent transaction was 2 hours ago or 1 second ago. So it's a combination of like differentiation between balances and then just prioritize whoever has not transacted the longest. So that's sort of the best short explanation of it I can give, I think.
No, that's a great explanation.
Yeah, and then in terms of spam attacks, so there was a bad spam attack on Nano in the past, which is when this whole prioritization was not in Nano yet. They used to prioritize in a different way, which frankly turned out not to work. Like, yeah, it's I won't go into the system because it doesn't exist anymore, but it just didn't work. And then since this system has been in place and it keeps getting upgraded pretty much, there was a spam attack like fairly recently, a few months back. I'm not sure how long exactly, but we know about it because we run a service, right? We run a service on the Nano network. It's probably one of the bigger services on the Nano network. And we saw that transactions got slowed down to, like, say, I think it was on average 18 seconds for full confirmation rather than like the sub-second that we're used to. But like our service still worked just fine because like 18 seconds is still a lot better than most of the alternatives that we can use. But just for people within Nano, it was like, oh my God, it's gotten so slow, which is just a very nice high standard to have, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
amazing.
and now with the latest improvements that have been done, I think they've gotten it down to it being like 3 seconds under like full saturation. So like if there is a heavy spam attack, the transactions would be delayed to like 3 seconds for full confirmation.
That's
And
insane.
that is, yeah, it is pretty insane. Then again, it is always sort of theoretical, right? Like I think there has been a spam attack since then, and most people just literally did not notice. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I feel fairly confident in it. But then again, I am not the most technical person. I just see what happens on our service, and I see that we were not very impacted by the spam by like the previous few attempts. So as a merchant, it feels good, like it feels safe. But yeah, that's it. Sort of it keeps developing, right? It keeps getting better. But even the current version is just fantastic. I don't think like people appreciate enough how good of a job the developers on Nano do. It's kind of insane, and they do it just voluntarily. Yeah, really appreciate
Yeah,
all of
it's,
them.
it's wild. Do you have any opinion on who the spammers might be? Whether like maybe insiders or people who are trying to sabotage the project, or people who might want to invest in it and just testing the infrastructure? Like, what do you have any
So I
hypotheses?
think the like people who want to invest in it and are doing it to test, I think that's very optimistic. I unfortunately
We
do
can
not think
hope.
that's.
Come on.
Yeah, we can hope. Like honestly, I have no clue who it might be or like yeah, who's spamming. So it could be that it's someone that was testing it. Could be. Yeah, I don't know. I can only speculate. I don't know anything more than you do. At the same time, I kind of feel like it is a bit of a moot point. Like yes, it is illegal, I guess, what they did. So if our service got impacted by it, for example, we can probably technically sue whoever performed this spam attack. But I just feel crypto is decentralized and robust, and it should not matter who is attacking. It should be resistant to all of these attacks, regardless of who does them, right? So I feel like any time spent focusing on who did this and what might their motivation be is time wasted to an extent. So yeah, I can understand the speculation, and it is kind of fun in a way to speculate on it, but I have no clue.
I mean, because most people doing DDoS attacks are just doing it for the lulls. So I kind of
Right.
assume that anybody spamming Nano is just doing it just to mess with, Nano nerds.
Yeah, yeah, that might be it, right? It might just be like, oh, look at these dumb nano people. Like, I knew zero fees didn't work. That might be it. Like, yeah, to be fair, it's just okay. Was a it was a harmful attack, I think, especially the one during the previous bull run. But
Yeah,
like
that was rough.
we should be able to move beyond this. Like we should be able to resist such attacks. Otherwise, there's no point, right? Like Nano is going to be attacked by a lot worse than this over the years.
Yeah.
So it really hurt at the time, but yeah, otherwise it was going to be done some other time. To be fair, the developers would probably have improved spam resistance in the meantime and have gotten a lot fewer gray hairs and stress out of it.
Yeah.
So that might have been preferable, because I know like it was super rough on many of them. So in that way, I do really, really not appreciate the person who spammed. But yeah, it's gonna happen. It's an open network.
And I felt bad saying it the way I did at the time, but I felt like it was a good thing because it showed how resilient the developers are and how dedicated they are. And I know it sucked because they had a different patch that was like almost on the verge of going out. But
Yeah,
in the real world, you don't get to choose when you're going to get spam attacked.
people don't wait for patches, unfortunately.
Exactly.
No.
And so like you need to know if the developers are up for the task of dropping everything and fixing the problem at hand versus saying, "Oh, it's not that bad. We can fix it." And it's just like, and they didn't do that. They jumped into action and worked on the real world hair on fire problem that was in front of them,
Yeah,
and it gave me a lot more respect and trust in the team and the project itself.
yeah,
And I felt bad saying it that way, but in reality, like those are the people I trust with my money.
yeah. No, I understand it.
At the end of
Like,
the day.
I have so much respect for like everyone really who is working on Nano, especially they've been completely volunteer, I think, for like a year now, or maybe over a year. And just the amount of hate, like pure hate, that many of these people get for building something that is completely open source, given away for free, like anyone can use it. It's honestly insane.
Insane.
Like,
Absolutely insane.
I think George has talked about this a few times, but like the amount of hate she gets, it's yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go too deep into it, but yeah, it's I can only have respect for people who build something so valuable and so good, despite sort of constantly being under the microscope for it, being attacked for it for like how long has Nano existed? Like 10 years now. Like, I think the team still has to deal with lawsuits and stuff over the BitGrill, like the BitGrill hack or exit scam by the bomber, whatever you want to call it. Like, they have so much shit to deal with constantly, and all they keep doing is improving Nano, literally without being paid. That's like,
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone can be critical of them, or like, yeah, it just beats
And
me.
and that's what people don't, and I think maybe that might be one of the reasons why a lot of investors aren't excited to jump on board is because there is no investment like vehicle to immediately make money. Whereas like, Bitcoin, you have proof of work, you can mine it. Ethereum, you have proof of stake, you can stake it and make return on it. There's nothing to do yet outside of building a business and accepting Nano and encouraging people to use Nano and like having a reason for needing Nano. And the Nano GPT is one of the first like real world use cases where it is so much better to use Nano than any other currency or cryptocurrency on the planet.
Yeah,
Just for the fact that you can do a 1 cent transaction and not have to worry about fees. Like
yeah,
that's unbelievable.
I know. I really like building NanoGPT, just because, like, it's, I don't know. I was always one of those people as well, right? Doing the giveaways on Reddit, sending people little amounts. So I'm
Yeah.
just super happy we have something that's easy to show off and that people can actually use. Um, what I wish we would have more of is ways to earn little bits of Nano. So we have some of that on our website, obviously, but like we need more of a circular ecosystem around Nano. Like, as you say,
Yeah.
right? It's like you can buy it or you can use it with NanoGPT. We need more of that stuff. We need more ways to use it, more ways to earn it. Um, like, to be fair, Bitcoin does pretty well in terms of price without anyone really being able to use it for much.
Exactly.
So maybe we overestimate to what extent that's needed, but I personally would love to see more real usage, um, and more people accepting it, doing transactions in it. That would be great.
Well, I liked when Banana was doing the whole thing where I'm blanking on the name of it, but where you could use excess computer power to like donate to, you know, hospitals
Folding at
or
home.
yeah,
Yeah.
folding at home. You want to explain that really fast in more detail?
Yeah. So from what I know about it is you essentially use the GPU on your laptop, computer, whatever, to help with medical research. So medical research needs a lot of processing power to run simulations, to run, yeah, just computations on medicine, on anything to do really with medical research. So they need GPUs for that. What Banano does is they still have a lot of Banano in like a developer fund. So you can contribute to this medical research with your GPU and you get paid some Banano every time they use your GPU, or like just per day, because the GPU is constantly in use pretty much if you want it to be. So it's a way that you can contribute to medical research, like feel good about doing it and make a few Banano on the side. I thought I saw recently that they've actually become the biggest contributor to this whole folding at home thing.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. There's like it's huge. Trying to see. No, I can't really find it quickly, but yeah, they're doing a lot of good through this. Yeah, October 2024 rank one.
Damn.
So in terms of the folding at home, there's like different teams sort of doing it, and Banano is the biggest team, or at least one of the biggest teams. So they've contributed a ton to medical research, or people running the GPUs have contributed a ton to medical research, and then they get paid some Banano.
What
We
if?
actually
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we actually mentioned folding at home on the earn portion of our website as well, because we also accept Banano, right? So
Yeah.
this way people can contribute to something good and to something they can, feel good about, get paid a bit of Banano, and then have it like use it on our website since we also accept Banano.
I mean, I feel like the nano community should like have a donation fund and donate it to a folding at home program, and then people can get paid out in Nano GPT, like in their Nano GPT account.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. I
Because I feel
wonder
like
how
people are
much.
always donating and like, oh, let's donate some, but versus just saying like, hey, do this and earn 10 cents a day or something like, or whatever, like 5 cents or a penny a day, which is worth X amount of nano, GPT uses. I don't know,
Yeah,
there's going to be something that, we can figure out how to, people can do good
I
for the
think it would
community,
be a
for the
great idea.
planet.
Like, I kind of wonder how much Banano is distributing this way, like in terms of just raw cost, pretty much.
Yeah.
How easy it would be to replicate with Nano. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking into. I'll probably go look into this after the after this.
Explain Senatus.
Explain the name or the
Yeah,
what do
or
you want
like
explained?
persona, how it came about, and
Okay,
because originally you weren't linking it to Mira,
right. Yeah,
right?
no, I wasn't. I tried to keep everything really separate. So first of all, the work reason when I started Twitter, but Senatus already existed before I started working at the central bank, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
But I wanted to keep Senatus and Mira separate because I've also had my issues with moderators on Reddit, like the cryptocurrency moderators, which nano people often complain
Yeah,
about, but which are
yeah.
super nice to me nowadays. Like they've added the NanoGPT bot into the Telegram chat for the cryptocurrency community, which is really
Oh,
cool. So
nice.
people can generate images within the Telegram chat and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, at the time, I really wanted to keep the two separate because then if I said something as Mira or like shared a post from Reddit, I didn't want it to be like, see, this is Senator sharing a post on Reddit and we can ban him for that or whatever. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to keep that separate. And then the Senator's name itself is I this game I played, actually the one from like 2012. My username in that game was Senatus because one of the first teams I joined, we had like a Roman theme, and I thought it would be cool. I was a lot younger when I started this game. I thought it would be cool to have like SPQR. That was the team name. So I'm like, fine, I'll take Senatus as my name. And then it kind of stuck. I don't know why. Like that game went well, so people knew me as Senatus, and I was like, fine, I guess this is my this is my online name now.
That's how it
So yeah,
happens, man.
yeah, it happens. I changed on Discord just 2 days ago now, I think, to Milan/Senatus.
Okay.
Um, Also because we have a Discord group for this whole network school thing. People kept being confused by like, who is this Senatus guy? So
Yeah.
whenever I DM'd, I'd have to go like, "Hi, Milan here." So yeah, I'm moving towards having just my one persona, which is the real me, which makes a lot like it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, you can always put formerly in your bio or something like that if you want, but
Yeah, formerly known as Mira Hurley, formerly known as Senatus, formerly known as Satoshi. No, I'm just kidding.
you hear it here. You heard it here first,
Yeah,
folks.
yeah, yeah. No, no, I would have been too young, I think, at that time. I was definitely not a competent programmer enough to be able to do this.
Would you be a competent enough programmer now to do it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think. I don't know how far like Claude and ChatGPT can go in terms of helping me with this.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, not really. What else
I
is
think
there to talk
we
about?
touched on a lot of subjects.
I was gonna say, yeah, this is like so. This is my first actual podcast in English.
Oh,
So it
nice.
was, yeah, yeah. I actually explicitly wanted to do the first one here, right? Because you feel like the sort of unofficial Nano podcast. You've had Colin and Patrick, and it's a tough act to
Well,
follow, Colin and
I'm
Patrick.
honored.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So and hopefully now I'll start doing a few more podcasts. But
Yeah,
it
definitely
like
get out there.
it's really fun to be honest. Like it's a fun medium.
I mean, if you have somebody you can just relax and talk to and have conversations with, it's great. You know,
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
it doesn't always work out that well, but for the most part, it's been a pretty positive and fun experience just having conversations with people. Even people who like didn't know anything about me or the show asked to come on. I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, I had so much fun. It's like, yeah, because I'm just having a conversation with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it feels very chill. So, like, are you relaunching the podcast now, or what's the plan here? Because it was always a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I don't know. Like this was a good reason to come back. It's been,
I'm
I
honored.
mean, God, like I think 2 years now, over two
Yeah,
years. When I saw you come out of the closet, no, just kidding.
gender
When I
reveal.
saw you reveal your true identity, it's like, okay, if there's ever a reason to bring it back for either just for one last final hurrah or to try to get it going again, like when I had that online date or that Zoom date
Yeah,
2 weeks ago, and we were talking about it, I was like, oh, this would make such a great podcast episode.
that's so funny.
But I don't know. I'm yeah, I'm in transition in midlife crisis. So who knows? Well,
Well, speaking
play
from
it by
someone
ear.
who's recently done a transition, no, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm honored that you restarted it for me at least. And like, if you want feedback on whether you should do it, like, I would love for you to get back into it more. I always enjoyed it, but yeah, up to you,
I
obviously.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, cool. Let's end there, and then thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for listening. And where can people find you on like socials? What like say your website again? You
Right,
know,
right, yeah. So on Twitter nowadays, I am not Mira Hurley anymore. I am Milan, Milan, and then I don't actually know what you call it, underscore Milan underscore Dereede, which I could pronounce for you guys, but it's a very Dutch sounding name, so no one would
DVD,
actually. What? Sorry?
DVD.
Yeah, Milan de Rede, you would
Oh, okay,
pronounce it in
nice.
Dutch. So that's me on Twitter. You can also follow NanoGPT on Twitter, which is just NanoGPT com. So NanoGPT.com. That's our Twitter account, and then obviously the website is nano-gpt.com. We also have a Discord and stuff, but you can easily find that from either our website or like the Twitter stuff. So I think that's all. Yeah, I'm also on Discord, of course. I'm also on Reddit, but that's depending on when my accounts get banned. My username keeps changing. But yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm easiest to reach on Twitter as Milan the Reader.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you for coming on. Hopefully you do. I can't wait to hear more. So make sure you keep everybody up to date on your next podcast episode, because this is, I mean, people have been using Nano here and there, but this is the first one where we can really see how effective it is versus other cryptocurrencies in real time. And so it's exciting to see where this goes. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks, man. And thanks very much for having me. I'm honestly honored to be here, given all the other guests you've had. And I had a lot of fun. So thank you very much.
Nice. Cool. It was great to finally meet you.
Yes.
Like, actually
Great
able to talk
to.
to you versus
I
hiding
know.
behind the mirror persona.
Yeah. It's really fun for me to finally be able to meet a lot of people that I've only spoken to, where they probably had some clue maybe that I was not Mira, but they never knew. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
nice to finally be able to just be like myself.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. And maybe I'll talk to you in the future. Maybe not. Maybe this is it. Either way, it's been a blast.